All right, and that is what we're celebrating. It's Tuesday, June 16th. It is Youth Day across South Africa. A very good morning to you and welcome to Morning Live. Well, this morning we have a packed show. Leanne Manus is broadcasting live from the Freedom Park in Pretoria, where an interfaith prayer is being held to begin the significant day in the history of South Africa. Also, Ayanda Ali Payne is in Soweto, where the Youth Day Freedom Walk is being held to remember the youth of 1976 who marched in Soweto. We've got that and so much more coming to you right here on Morning Live. From the studio, it's myself as well as Tieti. We'll be keeping you up to speed with what's happening in the news, in the sport, where there's been a little bit of a coaching merry-go-round and not such a good occasion in the World Rugby Under-20 Championship semi-final, where the Baby Box went down to England. So unfortunately, now they're left to actually compete for the bronze medal. Lots happening also on the news front with the latest developments around the Omar al-Bashir issue. So we'll be, of course, keeping you up to speed with that. And I'm not alone in studio here in Auckland Park. We've also got Tieti, who will bring you the latest when it comes to the weather. Okay, let's check in with Ayanda and find out what we can expect on this morning's broadcast from Soweto. Good morning, Ayanda.
Well, good morning to you, Valen, and welcome to Orlando West in the Southwest Township, as you have rightly alluded to, Soweto. And we are coming to you live from the Hector Peterson Museum. It was just a stone's throw away from here where we saw the epicenter of that fateful day, Valen, in 1976. What began as a peaceful protest against the implementation of being taught in Afrikaans, those key subjects being spoken to or taught in Afrikaans, has ended, or did end at least, in bloodshed and violence, and in fact had a ripple effect that went far beyond Soweto into other townships as well, and played a huge role into the South Africa that we see today. We'll be speaking to some of the youngsters, the class of 2015, juxtaposing them with the class of 1976, wanting to find out what the similarities are, what are the differences, what are the opportunities today, what are some of the threats, and perhaps what are some of the challenges that still linger years after. We'll also be speaking to a number of key stakeholders on the fate of young people today and going forward. We know that at 6 o'clock, the Premier of the province of Gauteng, Mr. David Makura, will be laying a wreath at the memorial of Hector Peterson, where a number of the youngsters who died on that day will be remembered, will be honored, will be thanked. And that's just a number, one or two of the things that will be happening today, and we'll keep you up to date with all of them. Vay, it's back to you in studio.
Great, thank you very much, Ayanda. We do look forward to following all of those ceremonies and these things that we're doing across the country today to remember that very important class of 1976. Just a reminder, Leanne Manus is in Freedom Park in Pretoria, and we'll be checking in with her a little bit later. Tietsi, what does Youth Day hold on the weather front?
A very good weather for most parts of the northern interior, especially from the Free State province going upwards to Gauteng, the northwest, as well as into some parts of Limpopo province. But we cannot say the same about the Western Cape and the Eastern Cape. There's a lot of warnings issued out by the South African Weather Service, from disruptive snowfalls to heavy rainfall and possibilities of high seas because of gale force winds that are coming in from the western part of the country. But I'll keep you updated and I'll tell you everything that you need to know on this Youth Day. I know many people are taking it as just a holiday and just relaxing at home. So we'll keep you updated before you need to go anywhere else. Stay tuned for all of that. Valen, it's back to you with your news.
Thank you very much, Tieti. Let's bring you your main news bulletin at this hour. Starting with this, the African Union Commission chairperson, Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma, says there was nothing untoward about Sudanese President Omar al-Bashir attending the AU summit. She says the summit was run under AU rules and that South Africa had no say in the matter. Al-Bashir returned to Sudan yesterday despite a North Gauteng High Court ruling that he should remain in the country.
Your Excellencies,
the summit that went late into the night and a press conference that ended only after midnight, overshadowed by the attendance of the Sudanese president, the AU said there was nothing untoward as this was its summit.
An AU summit is not a bilateral meeting. It's a multilateral organization, and when a country hosts it hosts it according to the rules of the AU, not according to its own rules. Before a country hosts, it signs a host country agreement with the AU, which spells out what is expected of the host.
This is not the headquarters of ICC anyway. And we don't want it in this region at all. And there is the view that we should distance ourselves from the ICC.
But the summit did discuss its business, reaffirming gender parity, launching the Continental Free Trade Area, and endorsing Agenda 2063 Action Plan.
The heads of state and government here present have collectively adopted and fully endorsed the first 10-year implementation plan of Agenda 2063. We have committed ourselves to commence the implementation of the flagship projects to spur economic growth and prosperity in Africa.
The summit concluded by recommitting to implementing the decisions taken. The next AU summit will be in January next year in Addis Ababa. SABC News, Johannesburg.
Meanwhile, government has undertaken to look into how the Sudanese president managed to leave the country. Acting cabinet spokesperson Pumla Williams says the government will comply with a High Court order, giving it 7 days to file an affidavit on exactly when and how he left.
High Court proceedings closely watched here at home and across the globe. Human rights organizations led by the South African Litigation Center against the government, fighting for al-Bashir's arrest. The Litigation Center argued that South Africa was obligated by international law to ensure his arrest. The court agreed.
It is declared by this court, declared and ordered, one, that the conduct of the respondents, to the extent that they have failed to take steps to arrest and or detain the President of the Republic of Sudan, Omar Hassan Ahmad al-Bashir, President Bashir, is inconsistent with the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa 1996 and invalid. That the respondents are forthwith compelled to take all reasonable steps to prepare to arrest President Bashir without a warrant.
The state had argued that the immunity granted to people attending the AU summit included heads of states. It was only later informed of al-Bashir's departure.
I have been informed by the government that they have reliable information that President al-Bashir has departed from the Republic on his way to the Sudan. So the Minister of State Security and the Minister in the Presidency have informed me that the circumstances of his departure will be fully investigated.
The Litigation Center welcomed the court's ruling that al-Bashir should have been arrested.
We are very happy at the order that was handed down by the court today, as it confirms that South African government authorities are under an obligation to arrest any fugitive from the ICC.
The court ordered government to submit a detailed affidavit within 7 days detailing when and where al-Bashir left the country. Sibongile Mganimbolweni, SABC News, North Gauteng High Court in Pretoria.
An investigation is underway after another train crash in Johannesburg. At least 7 people were injured, 3 seriously, when the last 2 coaches of a train derailed at the Doornfontein station yesterday afternoon. The Passenger Rail Association, PRASA, says it's not yet known what might have caused the derailment. It follows a collision between 2 trains at Denver in Johannesburg in April, in which 1 person was killed and over 200 injured. Preliminary investigations pointed to driver error. We're going to the United States now. The man hoping to become the third President Bush has announced his bid for the 2016 Republican presidential nomination in Miami. Former Florida Governor Jeb Bush made his announcement at the multiracial school Miami-Dade College. The 62-year-old politician is seeking to be seen as his own man and move out of the White House legacies left by his father and brother. The former presidents George H.W. Bush and George W. Bush did not attend the event. All right, it's time now to take a look at your market indicators, starting with your currencies. The rand was flat yesterday, unchanged from its earlier levels, with trade being somewhat subdued owing to today being a public holiday. The rand to the dollar is trading at 12 rand 40 cents, to the British pound 19 rand 35, to the euro 13 rand 9 cents, and to Botswana's below 1 rand 24. The JSE closed weaker following softer global markets rattled by concerns over Greece. The JSE is down 51,297, that's a 1.13%. European equities, they closed sharply lower after talks between Greece and its creditors collapsed at the weekend, raising the prospect that Greece could default on its debt obligations. The FTSE down 6,710, the DAX 10,984, and the CAC 4,815. On Wall Street, U.S. stocks closed lower yesterday as investors remained anxious over stalled Greece debt talks and the upcoming two-day Federal Reserve meeting. The Dow Jones down 17,791, the S&P 500 2,084, and the Nasdaq 5,029. Asian shares declined earlier this morning as Greece's debt talks and the upcoming two-day Federal Reserve meeting sapped risk appetites. The Nikkei down 20,260, Hang Seng down 26,731, and the Kospi 2,017. And finally, for a look at your commodities, gold per ounce is trading at $1,186. For an ounce of platinum, $1,090.30, and a barrel of Brent crude, $64.26. All right, that was your 6 o'clock news. We'll have news headlines for you at the bottom of the hour. Let's check in with Tsietsi and see what we can expect for our Youth Day weather.
Thank you very much, Valen. Let's have a look at this Youth Day weather. Well, doesn't look very good at all. We're expecting that cold front to move past now in towards the Eastern Cape province and stretch a little bit further inland. You can see from the satellite image that does not spell any good news at all. Just have a look at that. Heavy rainfall is expected along the Western Cape coastline. It has been issued out by the South African Weather Service as a warning, so please be careful there. The orange shade that you see here, that is an advisory for possibilities of high seas as well as gale force winds that are expected. You see winds at around 75 kilometers an hour in a western direction there. It looks like it's not going to cease much towards the Eastern Cape province, 50 kilometers an hour just along the coastal part. So you might want to look out for those, as waves could go as high as about 9 meters in some places. And then there's also possibilities of veld fires that are expected towards KwaZulu-Natal. Disruptive snowfalls into the Eastern Cape province, so you can expect cooler, becoming very cold conditions towards that eastern interior. These are your temperatures: 11 for Alexander Bay, 12 towards Vredendam, and everywhere that's going to be in place such as Queenstown, Kredok, as well as over Graafrenet should expect single digits, temperatures between 4 and 8 degrees, and then -2 for Bethlehem. Vereeniging will probably be at around -3, a maximum of 22 is expected towards Johannesburg. Messina is at 31 degrees, 27 for Lephalale, so it's still nice and warm along those parts. And then just have a look at Sutherland. Ladies and gentlemen, it's only at 7 degrees, so really cold weather is expected there. Calvinia at 11, another 11 for Springbok. Your conditions for tomorrow, just have a look at how far the cold front is stretched all the way towards the northern parts. So tomorrow and Thursday, I'm telling you now, tomorrow and Thursday, cold weather is coming up all the way towards the interior, and very cold weather towards the southwestern parts. That is all for now. Stay tuned. I'll bring you more updates later.
better route. Incoming. Watch out. Let's brighten it up a little. I can handle this. Engineered intuition. The new Audi A6.
Dr. King, this thing.
The historical film, directed by Ava DuVernay, is about Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and his campaign for black voting rights in 1965.
The pictures Uche paints are sold for $1,470 to $2,000. He says these pictures are not necessarily for financial gain, but to create debate about the power situation in Nigeria.
Based for most of the decade in the United States, Mfumo has not performed in his homeland of Zimbabwe since then. So his March performance with his band, the Blacks Unlimited, will no doubt be welcomed by the large community of Zimbabweans who call South Africa home.
Join Musam Khalipi on Afro Showbiz every Saturday at 19:30 CAT.
Welcome back. You're watching Morning Live on this very special day here in South Africa. It is, of course, Youth Day. Now, many people have got the day off, but if you happen to be one of those that are like me and you're at work, then you may be wondering what the time is. If you're following it, it's 18 minutes past 6. We still have sports news coming for you. Of course, Maritzburg United saying goodbye to their coach, Steve Kompela. Serame Letswaka is the brand new coach of Golden Arrows after they won promotion to the ABSA Premiership. They said goodbye to their coach, Sean Bartlett, who a couple of weeks ago we had right here on the show. Speaking about the sport, I think let's bring you a sports update now before we check in with Leanne Manners, who is at Freedom Park in Pretoria. We start with rugby news. England will face New Zealand for the World Rugby Under-20 Championship title. The English defending champions beat the Junior Springboks 20-28 in the semi-final match. South Africa's ill discipline cost them with 2 yellow cards in the opening 30 minutes for high tackles, which gave England the advantage up front. First, it was Hanno Liebenberg, the South African captain and number 8. He was yellow carded when South Africa were 3 points behind.
The next indiscretion, the loose ball in.
But when Jason Jenkins was sent off for the same offence, James Chisholm scored the first try of the match.
Lovely little skill there from Jennings. It's another high tackle being penalised. Shuhei Kobe is the assistant referee on the far side.
That's another high tackle. 4 greens, no, you're going to the bin. Another high tackle.
Oh, it's another high tackle. And this time, it's the good control by...
England were afforded a penalty try on the stroke of half-time, and when Jennings started the easy conversion, the English were 18-6 in front at half-time. And although South Africa came back with 2 tries in the second half, it was a little late for them to be able to secure victory. All right, well, New Zealand beat France in the other semi-final, and South Africa will now go up against France for the bronze medal at the contest. Let's take a look at some highlights of the first semi-final.
And they break. This could be the first try of the match. They're going forward. France looking great. France are over! First try to France. Clement Caste just kept their ball 108 Ks. 22 Fayane. Leonard Brown. Leonard Brown's got Lee on the outside. He's got too much pace. Players on the inside. Here's Fayane. One more pass to Lee. To Vita Lee. Lee inside the 22. Will they catch him? No, they won't. Tavita Lee becomes the top New Zealand try scorer in the history of under-20 World Championships rugby. The feed, Ioane goes off the back. Akira Ioane. Ioane hits, spins, and scores! Try time for the Baby Blacks. Akira Ioane gets up his third try here in Italy. Building phases here. New Zealand ball on the inside. Tavita Lee's through. Tavita Lee goes equal with Andrew Callaway to score 12 tries in the Rugby Championships of 2015. Well, Leonard Brown looks up and kicks it ahead. Lee is chasing Tavita Lee. He'll get it! Tavita Lee could get a hat-trick. Lee for the hat-trick. Lee is in! First real opportunity for the New Zealanders, and they strike again.
Let's move on to some football news now. Bafana will look to return to winning form when they host Angola in an international friendly at the Cape Town Stadium tonight. The big question today, and as well as in the lead-up to the match, is about Bafana's goal drought. Coach Shakes Mashaba's answer is that the national team is no place for strikers to learn the basics that has to be learnt at a lower level.
Fitting for the doom and gloom hanging over the national soccer team. This after the team was held to a disappointing goalless draw by Gambia in the opening 2017 African Cup of Nations qualifier on Saturday. The lack of goals is a perennial problem, a problem Mashaba says he doesn't have the time to fix days ahead of a match.
It should be directed to the right level. It's shocking to hear people talking about things like basics. You don't deal with basics in the national team. No chance. No chance. This should be done at the lower level.
It was the first time South Africa had been involved in 3 0-0 draws in a row, following stalemates against Botswana and Malawi in the COSAFA Cup. But the players are adamant that it will come right and that the spirit in the camp is still positive.
I don't know, if you watch the training, we always work on it. So I think it will happen as time goes on, because I think we cannot miss so many chances in the game. I think we will get right, and there's no one to blame. You cannot blame the strikers, you cannot blame anybody.
Angola arrive in Cape Town full of confidence after crushing the Central African Republic 4-0 on Saturday. The good news for Bafana is that in 7 matches between the two countries, South Africa have won 4 with 3 draws. Craig Murray, SABC News, Cape Town.
Staying with football news, this time across continents, Mateus Vioso scored twice to earn Mexico a 3-all draw with host Chile at the Copa America tournament. Mexico opened the scoring through striker Mateus Vioso before Arturo Vidal equalized with a header. Raul Jimenez restored Mexico's lead before Chile's Eduardo Vargas made the scoreline 2-all just before half-time. Chile took the lead for the first time in the 55th minute. But Mexico refused to give up, and Vioso scored his second of the game to give his side a vital point and a chance of making the knockout stages of the competition. Here's confirmation of results from the tournament. Chile and Mexico each grabbing a point in their group after a 3-all draw. And today it is Paraguay up against Jamaica. All right, that concludes your sport in this hour. We'll have more sport for you after 7 o'clock. Now, young people were an integral part of the fight against the racist apartheid system, and it's something that we remember today with those youth that marched in 1976. Of course, Ayanda is in Soweto. She is going to be going on a symbolic walk, retracing those steps of the march, whereas Leanne is out in Pretoria. So let's check in with her. A very good morning to you, Leanne.
Thanks very much, Valen. Yes, and a very, very good morning to you on this Youth Day, June 16th. We're coming to you live from Freedom Park. And, on a day like this, we look back to the youth in 1976. We look back at this day in history, at what happened, a devastating mark in our history. But I suppose a turning point when it came to, when we saw the fight against apartheid and the youth taking a stand against the circumstances of the day. Well, as we stand here in 2015, I think when you look at the circumstances of the day facing the youth, perhaps we need another generation of 1976, and that is exactly what the government is really calling for. They want the youth to get involved in all issues that are surrounding the youth and what the youth face, and that's what we're here to talk about at Freedom Park. It's quite a significant venue that we're broadcasting from. All around us, the names of fallen heroes in apartheid, those soldiers that lost their lives fighting for the freedom that our country has. And perhaps you can hear in the background a bit of shouting, a bit of prayer. Well, that's what's happening right now. We've got an interfaith prayer service that's taking place. There's a couple of young members inside there that are, I suppose, praising in the way that they do to the God that they worship. Well, this morning, let's get the government perspective. And I've got Pumla Williams with me. She's the governmental spokesperson from GCI. So she's just going to talk about where governments put the youth and their priorities as well, particularly on this Youth Day. Good to see you, Pumla. Thank you very much for being with us.
Good morning, Leanne, and good morning to the viewers at home. Yeah. Thank you for having me.
In my introduction, I'm sure you heard me saying that the government would love to see the youth of 2015, as the youth of 1976 did, standing up for those things that they don't agree with and that are affecting them. What would you like to see the youth doing in this day and age?
Leanne, I think maybe to start with, I think you should reflect and pay homage to the young lions that took us to this day in 1976, 39 years ago. I think we owe what we have today to the young people who took a stand that it is not going to happen. And I think the freedom that we're beginning to cherish today is as a result of those young people who began to say something has to change in South Africa. And we are saying today we are celebrating, and we are also beginning to engage the young people of today, 39 years later, and some of them, they don't even have an indication of what really it took for the freedom that they are beginning to enjoy today. So I think it's a day, in fact, one should say that as a government, we're saying the month of June is a month where we're beginning to engage young people, to educate young people about the significance of June 16, but importantly to begin to get them involved in the challenges that they have. Because I think one has to say that the challenges that the young people are facing today are not necessarily the same challenges that we as young people at the time were facing. So it is a time where we want them to take a pledge and say, we want to emulate what happened in 1976 by changing the circumstances that we face today. For instance, the young people today are facing the challenges of unemployment. They are facing the challenges of drugs. But I think as government, we cannot even begin to say that we can tackle this problem without really taking young people along with us, because I think we are of the view that some of the young people, or a lot of them, have got great ideas that we can work with and begin to take South Africa forward using the young people, because I think South Africa is only going to be where we want it to be by making sure that we begin to engage this generation, because the generation of 1976, probably 20 years, they probably will be pensioners or whatever. So I think it is important that we use these events to start getting young people involved in resolving some of the challenges that they have. And this is the best moment in June to begin to reflect on those challenges.
It certainly is, but if we look back to the youth in 1976, a lot of the issues were beyond their control. We look here in 2015, unemployment, of course, is I suppose, one of the biggest issues that are facing the youth now. But there's also the curse of drugs, of alcohol, of, self-inflicted things in the youth of today that I suppose challenges that they need to take responsibility for themselves as well. Is that a message government is trying to push forward as well? Take responsibility for your lives?
you're correct in saying that the challenges that we had in 1976 were different, because we were dealing with a very, very violent system. The government of the day at the time responded by killing young people. Today we are saying, as government, we want to work with you. We understand that you are having challenges, but we as government, we are saying we want to come up, to help you to come up with solutions. For instance, we've done a lot in terms of education. We understand that there are such challenges of young people who are not able to go to universities. We've introduced what we call the FET colleges to make sure that we begin to create a bridging, so that the young people of today who are not able to make it to universities, they are able to get technical skills. We've introduced funds for young entrepreneurial students that want to begin to start businesses. So we are there with some facilities that we were saying, come work with us and make sure that you achieve. But I think the most important thing is the youth themselves. You can come up with all these interventions, but if the young people do not want to take the bait, and there's not much. So we want to use the June 16 to say, in the same way, even with the issue of drugs, we can come up with all the interventions of saying, let us help you to wean you off the drug. But if you are not willing to say, yes, I have a drug problem. So I think this whole engagement is important for us.
It's a taking responsibility issue. Primla, thank you very much for talking to us, and enjoy today's commemorations and I suppose celebrations as well, to see how far we have come. But the reality is we've got a long way to go as well when it comes to the youth of today. Pumla Williams is a spokesperson for government, talking to us here from government's perspective on their support for the youth. Well, as we head towards 6:30 here on this June 16th public holiday in South Africa, let's get our news headlines from Vela.
Thank you very much, Leanne. Let's bring you news headlines now. The African Union Commission chairperson, Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma, says there was nothing untoward about Sudanese President Omar al-Bashir attending the AU summit. She says the summit was run under AU rules and that South Africa had no say in the matter. Al-Bashir returned to Sudan on Sunday night ahead of a North Gauteng High Court ruling that compelled the government to arrest him. Hundreds of pupils have converged on the Hector Peterson Memorial at Orlando West in Soweto for a symbolic walk ahead of Youth Day celebrations today. They retraced the steps of the class of 76 with some of the former pupils who were part of the protest 4 decades ago. An investigation is underway after another train crash in Johannesburg. At least 7 people were injured, 3 seriously, when the last 2 coaches of a train derailed at the Doornfontein station yesterday afternoon. It follows a collision between 2 trains at Denver in Johannesburg in April, in which 1 person was killed and over 200 were injured. That's just a quick look at the news stories that we're tracking for you. Let's check in with Tsietsi and the weather.
And a very good morning. Look at a beautiful shot of Johannesburg, and that's how it looks like it's going to be quite a lovely day today. Let me move out completely so that you can see what you should expect. That's actually Centec Tower there in the far end of the world, the only tower that you see in your shot there, and beautiful yellow sky coming up. That's actually coming from the reflection of the amount of light that's being reflected. That's why you're seeing it like that. Let's quickly have a look at your weather, and you will see that starting with Wednesday and Thursday, that's when you're going to experience some of the most cold weather towards the central part of the country, possibilities of snowfalls leading to very cold conditions towards the Eastern Cape province as well as over Lesotho. Cold weather is expected again towards that western interior, going up towards the east and majority of Limpopo province. But let's quickly look at your provinces for today, starting with Gauteng. As usual, Carltonville, a maximum of only 20 degrees, 22 towards Johannesburg. Soweto should also expect about a 21 to about a 23 degrees. So it's going to be sunny, but a cold day still. If you're going to be doing any outdoor events, if you're going to be doing a walk or something, do expect slightly chilly conditions here in Gauteng, going towards Sandton as well as into Midrand. Polokwane is at 26 over Limpopo province. Nice and hot weather for Tzaneen at 31. Palabora is at 28 degrees. So what's happening in Limpopo province is they're feeling the effect of a sort of a warm front. Everything before a cold front, nice and warm still, but after a cold front, the temperatures will start dropping again, and those will reach Limpopo province by about Thursday. For us, it's definitely coming tomorrow, starting from tonight, and tomorrow it's going to be very cold. Skukuza is at 34 degrees, still nice and hot there, but cold weather for Emelo as well as towards Standerton, starting off at -2 to only 21 degrees. Some sunny skies also expected for KwaZulu-Natal province. As you see, Maritzburg, Vryheid, all those at around 23 degrees. -1 to a maximum of 19 for Kokstad and Port Shepstone at a maximum of 24. Durban will reach 25 for your Youth Day celebration in the Eastern Cape province. You should expect the rainy weather for most parts of the province. Temperatures for Aliwal North, -4 to a maximum of only 16 degrees. That's where you'll really feel the bite of the cold already. PE at only 20 degrees, East London around 20 to 23. And then the Western Cape, that's where it also goes down. Winter is really hitting them hard along those parts. You'll see temperatures for Cape Town at only 15 degrees, Hermanus at 15 as well. Worcester drops to 14. Also, rainy weather is expected there. Be careful. Look out for possibilities of localized flooding because of heavy rainfall that we're expecting there. Also, rough seas are expected to dominate along those parts. Sutherland starts off at -5 with a maximum of only 7 degrees. Carnarvon at 15, 17 for Kimberley. The Free State province should also expect some cloudy conditions, possibilities of rain towards Viepenar. Bloemfontein is at 17 degrees, 20 for Frankfurt, starting off at -2. And then finally, in the Northwest province, temperatures are into the lower 20s from Ottosdal, going to Klerksdorp, Wolmaranstad, Makwasi, as well as over Bloemhof. And we see Mahikeng at a maximum of 22 degrees. This is just the green tip that I was reminding you about. Cook smartly, rather use a gas oven instead of electric oven. That switch will save you a lot of energy and a lot of electricity bills. That is it for now. Stay tuned for more later.
Bones, the man with silky vocals that had many viewers captivated from his very first audition, now holds the title of King of South African Idols Season 10.
I came from the streets, so I was a bit rough. So when I got to Boys Town, I started teaching myself playing piano with 2 fingers. Well, that's how I started with music. So I started getting interested in piano, and then I started singing.
He's a loving father, loving husband, and he makes us happy.
Bophelong, your show about those who took on and conquered life's challenges, every Saturday at 17:30 CAT.
This is Primetime News.
Scores have been evicted after their properties were sold without their knowledge.
We take an in-depth look at top stories of the day. Live crossings to our journalists on the scene. Studio analysis. And a special focus on regional stories. This is Primetime News, weekdays at 6:30 p.m. and weekends at 6 p.m. on the SABC News channel.
The internet has been found to be a tool used by militant groups when recruiting members. This has forced governments to create tighter internet laws. Technology has also been used to call for social change, as was the case with the abducted Nigerian girls.
The people on social media are some of the society's most influential. If they get an issue started, you're likely to have that issue become a national issue.
And on Network, we tell you about this serious side of technology, but we have fun too with gadgets, games and cars. That's Network every Sunday at 19:30, only on SABC News.
Welcome back. You're watching Morning Live on this special day. It is Youth Day across South Africa. It is June 16, a day where we remember the brave youths of the mid-70s that refused to just go with a system that was inherently incorrect and unjust. Ayanda is going to symbolically trace the steps along with a number of youth today. So let's cross over to her because she is, of course, at the heart of where this uprising happened in 1976, the reason why we celebrate June 16th.
Thank you so much to you, Valen. You're quite right. Just a stone's throw away from where we are today is the epicenter of where that fateful day saw the bloodshed of many young South Africans. Yep, we're coming to you live from the Hector Peterson Memorial here in Orlando West. The hustle and bustle of township life is a little bit subdued today, but we are seeing an influx of your blue lights and black SUVs, and that's because Gauteng Premier Mr. David Makhura, as well as Education MEC Panyaza Lesufi and Mayor Park Stawu will be here today to lay a wreath in honor of those young souls who died in a valiant quest for better education. And those youngsters of 1976 are now being juxtaposed to the class of 2015. Let's find out what some of the opportunities are today, what some of the challenges were, and whether or not there's some similarities and differences between then and now. I'm joined by a group of youngsters who reside in Soweto, similar to the youngsters of 1976. Good morning to you. I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself and also talk to me about what today means to you.
Okay, my name is Bundisla Joayo. Today is a great day for me because we're celebrating and honoring those who died for us. And seeing that this day, I'm thinking it's a morning and it's a joyful day for us as children.
Wonderful. Now I'm going to ask you to tell me about what are some of the similarities or maybe differences between the class of 2015 and the class of 1976.
Okay, firstly, I'm Pomelelo, and the similarities, I'd say that we have the same fighting spirit and like we are all encouraged, but like the difference I can say is that they were fighting for more positive things and we are fighting for less positive things. Yeah.
Like what? What are some of those challenges that we face today that perhaps are evident because of the new dispensation that we're in?
We face the challenges like teenage pregnancy and drug abuse. We do things that are not correct. We fight. We do many things. So we have to concentrate on new ideas and positive things. We have to be passionate. Yes.
What are some of those positive things that we can focus on? Let's speak a little bit about opportunities now.
We can introduce youth centers that can build our youth of today, and they can actually do sports fields and stuff in our communities that can actually encourage us to be determined to our future. As education, we have to be determined to our education and be more passionate about it and learn more and focus on the things that are less negative, things that are positive, like education actually, and doing positive things like and don't go outside or do some things. Yes.
Just staying on the concept of education, I see you've got a bag over there that you have with you there and that you made yourself. How can we encourage other young South Africans? Firstly, I'm going to ask you to tell us a bit about it, but how can we encourage other young South Africans who are talented maybe in braiding hair or in doing various things to make use of their gifts and talents to better not only themselves, their community and their country at large?
First, education is the way forward. In order for you to be successful in life, you have to go somewhere. So I urge you guys to go to school and learn more so that you can do something like this as I did here. Yes.
How did you start doing that?
I started designing, I think, 2009. I started with a pair of jeans, editing it, and that's where I went to designing my bags and all that.
All right. Now, let's lastly speak to you about, what we can learn from the class of 1976. I mean, there are a lot of challenges today. You did mention them: teenage pregnancy, drug and alcohol abuse, their social ills, poverty, inequality, etc. Some of our classrooms and perhaps our school infrastructures leave much to be desired. So what can we learn from that fighting spirit of the youth in 1976?
They fought for education. Now it's our part to play. It's our part to play our role in South Africa. It's your choice whether you go to school or you stand there at the corner smoking nyope. It's your choice. You're not doing for your parents, you're doing for yourself. And it's your future.
Thank you very much. Well, yep, some of these youngsters here today, speaking to them a little bit earlier, saying to me that, you know, the class of 1976 didn't look to government. They didn't wait for government to give them a handout, because it was the government itself that was turning a blind eye and was oppressing them, so that that, at least they said to me, was something that they could learn from the class of 1976, that we should come together, stand up and rise up and make sure that we take our future in our own hands and do something for ourselves, like the young man there who's designing bags. But we'll leave it there, at least for now. You got a little bit of a litmus test, a feel as to where the thinking of the youngsters are here in Soweto, and we'll give you more on key conversations with stakeholders. The likes of Ntsiku Mazwai is here, Billy Guy Bembe is also here. We also have a musical treat for you a little bit later, so be sure to stay with us. But right now, it's back to you in studio.
SABC News seeks to be the biggest, the most extensive and diverse news organization on the continent. Our mission is to provide accurate and credible news and current affairs programming throughout the day. We are committed to covering every part of the continent. We reflect the world to Africa and Africa to the world. SABC News, Africa's news leader. Now available throughout the continent.
Nelson Mandela, that was for me having an opportunity to make a film about something he said. He's one of my heroes, and he makes me proud to be African.
Mandela spent 27 years in Robben Island and in other jails as a result of his struggle to end apartheid in South Africa before becoming the country's first black president in 1994.
So you make movies, like Spielberg?
Yeah, I make movies like Spielberg.
Join Musam Khalifi on Afro Showbiz every Saturday at 19:30 CAT.
A woman is way more likely to be killed by a lover or a husband than she is by anyone else.
Christopher Panayuto, accused of orchestrating the murder of his wife, Jade, is to apply for bail in a bid to get out of the overcrowded cells and escape the samp and beans diet.
Here is a man that's accused of killing his wife. He's worried about the special diet. He's worried that he's eating beans and samp there.
Sadly, a fan was also reportedly killed in a scuffle with police during the pitch invasion.
I'm surprised that the city press is going with the picture of the celebration instead of showing us the picture of the person that has been killed.
Watch Media Monitor with me, Alicia Jali, Sundays at 9 a.m. only on the SABC News channel.
Welcome back to Freedom Park on this National Youth Day. That is June 16th, looking back 39 years ago to 1976, where the Soweto uprising occurred. I know that's where Ayanda is broadcasting from this morning. So, you know, around the country on a day like this, there's always a very sad atmosphere. But at the same time, it was those youth of that day that stood up for their rights and stood up for what they believed in and for wanting to change the circumstances of their lives. Well, today focusing in on 2015, and let me tell you something, I think the problems facing the youth are nothing to look down on in this day and age, because there are still so many things that need to change and need to move forward for the youth, whether it be education, whether it be drug addiction, and whether it be what I think is one of the most important things is having a role model and a good leader to look up to, and good parenting, good morals. These are kind of things that every child needs needs in their lives. Well, let's talk to the National Youth Development Agency now. Let's talk about what they do for the youth of today and see exactly what they're going to do as well. So I've got the CEO with me, Katu Ramakumba. Good to have you, Katu. Thank you very much for being our guest on the program.
Good morning, Leanne, and good morning to your viewers.
So the question I need to ask, and I think I'm going to ask all my guests, is the significance of June 16th now in this day and age. What does it mean to you?
Look, for us, it means that we must be able to recognize the courage of young people of 1976, but emulate it as young people of today, because just like them, we're faced with our own challenges, our own struggles. Today we talk about youth unemployment, which is very high. We talk about poverty and inequality, and these are the challenges that young people are finding themselves in the cold face of. And we're saying that as young people of today, we must be able to borrow from that spirit and be able to face the struggles and wage a war, and a war that we must win. That's why, as the National Youth Development Agency, we have identified a number of programs that are aimed at assisting young people to be able to deal with these challenges. Programs that speaks to access to education, quality education, but also skills development, so that the young people can be able to have skills to offer to the economy, as well as participation in entrepreneurship.
Yeah. Since the early hours of this morning, we've been listening to this interfaith prayer service, and it's a lot of young people praying in there. Why this route? What was the idea behind this?
Look, what we want to say is that young people must be at the center of the journey or the trajectory that South Africa must take moving forward. That's why this year the theme for this month is Youth Moving South Africa Forward. We are saying that young people must stand up themselves and be able to do what they believe needs to be done in order to make our country a better place, which is why we thought that it would be better, it would be a good idea that young people themselves lead in every aspect of today's processions, which is why they are here to be as part of the interface. We expect them to be part of the march that will be leading from here to the showgrounds where the main event will be happening. We expect them again to also participate in the pledge, a process that we have initiated, where they themselves must begin to speak about what they as young people need to do to address their own socio-economic conditions, but also to make South Africa a better place to live in.
We look at the youth of today. Do you feel that they're tolerant of others? When we saw the xenophobic attacks happening, we saw that a lot of those attacks were happening by the youth on foreigners here in the country. And there's a lot of violence amongst our youth today. Do you think that a culture of tolerance is something that we need to instill in our youth a lot more?
Definitely. We think that that is very important. But also we think that we need to be able to address the underlying factors. We think that what we saw that has been referred to as xenophobic attacks are mainly the symptoms of a bigger problem. Yeah. We think that we must wage a war against poverty and unemployment. And when young people are actively participating in the mainstream economy of our country, they will not have reasons to engage in this intolerant behavior, activities that are destructive to our nation-building project, but also to the quest of uniting Africa for the sake of all Africans.
Yeah. You talk about a march that's going to be taking place today, or a walk, I suppose. A march is not really the right word to use on a day like this. Where are you going? Where is it ending? If I'm not mistaken, the showgrounds here in Pretoria is going to be the actual event of the day.
Yeah. No, the walk will start here. It's a walk for freedom. It will start here and it will eventually end at Tshwane Event Center, which is where the main event will be happening, where the president will be engaging young people of this country as well as the nation at large, but also listening to young people, because when we were planning this event, the president himself has said he wants to have an engagement with young people. He wants to understand what is it that young people think must be done in order to advance their development by his government, but also by the private sector and civil society organizations as well.
Yeah, all right. Thank you for talking to us here on this National Youth Day here in South Africa. Katu Ramakumba is the Chief Executive Officer of the National Youth Development Agency. Thank you, and enjoy the day. Enjoy the day today. All right, so we're going to now just, I suppose, keep it down for a little bit here at Freedom Park as the prayers get underway there. We'll talk about the weather, because one thing I can tell you is freezing here. I know I tell you every time that when that sun starts rising, that's when that temperature starts dropping. So at this point, the sun is rising and it is freezing. I'm not sure what the rest of the country looks like, but let's get you a weather update now.
Well, Leanne, it is kind of cold, and it's going to get colder even for the next couple of days. And you're seeing possibilities of snowfalls coming into us, the Eastern Cape province. Let's quickly jump into the weather, and the satellite image will show you that we're expecting cloud cover towards the central regions. If we go into the weather system now and look at that satellite image, you will see from it that we are expecting rainy conditions. But as if you go into that satellite image now and have a look at that weather, you will see that it's getting cold to us, the central parts, especially over the Western Cape provinces. There's possibilities of snowfalls over here, and that's going to lead to cold weather coming up over the next couple of days. Just have a look at that. Rough seas are also expected, coupled with possibilities of high seas. And those gale force winds are leading to all of the disaster happening towards the western part of the country, with 75 kilometers an hour of westerly winds that are coming through. Heavy rain is also expected there, and you can see the cold front nice and strong over the central part. It's going to move all the way towards the eastern region, and it's going to lead to the cold weather that's coming through. Bethlehem starts off at 0. There is a -3 towards Vereeniging, and more sub-zeros are expected into the Free State province. Your maximum temperatures for Graafrenet at 16 degrees, 13 for De Aar and Kimberley, also at around 16. 23 if you're going to be in Pretoria, well, that's where Leanne is, in Freedom Park. Temperatures are also expected to remain the same for the next couple of hours, so it's not going to get any better. Very cold weather is expected towards the southwestern parts, with the possibilities of showers just along the coast, so traveling behind that the cold front, and still snowfalls are expected there, which is going to lead to very cold conditions over today as well as over tomorrow, and definitely by Thursday as well. Cool weather reaching now the Limpopo region, still very cold towards Upington as well as over the southwestern parts. Partly cloudy skies are expected, and then winds will be a lot lighter, not as strong as they were today compared to Thursday, at only 20 kilometers an hour and also 25 kilometers an hour towards the southwestern parts. That is all for now. I'll be back later. Do stay tuned.
For the farmer, fire sometimes epitomizes a new beginning, purifying and cleansing the ravages of winter. With the help of the Children of Fire, Mita is now a social worker manager and helping other survivors to unleash their potential.
People should just allow people who are disabled or disfigured or whatever to be who they are.
Now happy and a bit more confident, Ntabi Singh helps around at the Children of Fire with chores.
People must come with a full heart to give, not to do the selfie, ach shame, here's me and a burn kit.
Join me, Rifio Wemwiba, on Bopelong every Saturday at 17:30.
That goal was outstanding.
Made so much dust that I couldn't see, and I hit a stone and we had a puncture.
Catch all these and more every day on Sports Live at 8:30 p.m. on the SABC News Channel.
Technology is all around us and is improving lives across Africa, like how young Nigerians are connecting to the internet. There are doctors finding new ways to save lives in Cameroon, and the South African public transport system that is now getting Wi-Fi. We have gadgets, apps and loads more, some of which play a big role in Africa's growth. A huge part of this African growth is technological innovation. To find out a bit more about social media and technology news from here in Africa and abroad, join me, Phumelele Zondi, every Sunday at 7:30 p.m. on SABC News.
Welcome back. You're watching Morning Live. It is 7 o'clock. Let's bring you your main news bulletin at this hour. Thank you very much for being with us on this Youth Day. The African Union Commission chairperson, Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma, says there was nothing untoward about Sudanese President Omar al-Bashir attending the AU summit. She says the summit was run under AU rules and that South Africa had no say in the matter. Al-Bashir returned to Sudan yesterday despite a North Gauteng High Court ruling that he should remain in the country.
The summit that went late into the night and a press conference that ended only after midnight, overshadowed by the attendance of the Sudanese president, the AU said there was nothing untoward as this was its summit.
An AU summit is not a bilateral meeting. It's a multilateral organization, and when a country hosts it according to the rules of the AU, not according to its own rules. Before a country hosts, it signs a host country agreement with the AU, which spells out what is expected of the host.
This is not the headquarters of ICC anyway. And we don't want it in this region at all. And there is the view now that we should distance ourselves from the ICC.
But the summit did discuss its business, reaffirming gender parity, launching the Continental Free Trade Area, and endorsing Agenda 2063 Action Plan.
The heads of state and government here present have collectively adopted and fully endorsed the first 10-year implementation plan of Agenda 2063. We have committed ourselves to commence the implementation of the flagship projects to spur economic growth and prosperity in Africa.
The summit concluded by recommitting to implementing the decisions taken. The next AU summit will be in January next year in Addis Ababa. SABC News, Johannesburg.
Meanwhile, government has undertaken to look into how the Sudanese president managed to leave the country. Acting cabinet spokesperson Pumla Williams says the government will comply with a High Court order, giving it 7 days to file an affidavit on exactly when and how he left.
High Court proceedings closely watched here at home and across the globe. Human rights organizations led by the South African Litigation Center against the government, fighting for al-Bashir's arrest. The Litigation Center argued that South Africa was obligated by international law to ensure his arrest. The court agreed.
It is declared by this court, declared and ordered, one, that the conduct of the respondents, to the extent that they have failed to take steps to arrest and or detain the President of the Republic of Sudan, Omar Hassan Ahmad al-Bashir, President Bashir, is inconsistent with the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa 1996 and invalid. That the respondents are forthwith compelled to take all reasonable steps to prepare to arrest President Bashir without a warrant.
The state had argued that the immunity granted to people attending the AU summit included heads of states. It was only later informed of al-Bashir's departure.
I have been informed by the government that they have reliable information that President al-Bashir has departed from the Republic on his way to the Sudan. So the Minister of State Security and the Minister in the Presidency have informed me that the circumstances of his departure will be fully investigated.
The litigation centre welcomed the court's ruling that al-Bashir should have been arrested.
We are very happy at the order that was handed down by the court today, as it confirms that South African government authorities are under an obligation to arrest any fugitive from the ICC.
The court ordered government to submit a detailed affidavit within 7 days detailing when and where al-Bashir left the country. Sibongile Mganimbolweni, SABC News, North Gauteng High Court in Pretoria.
Moving on to this now, hundreds of pupils have converged on the Hector Peterson Memorial at Orlando West in Soweto for a symbolic walk ahead of Youth Day.
A symbolic walk, retracing the steps of the class of 76. Enos Nguchane was in the front lines of the historic protest. His memory is still vivid.
A week before June 16, the apartheid regime came into our school with the sole purpose of arresting me as one of the student leaders. Of course, their car was overturned and set ablaze. That's why we pride ourselves as Naledi High, as one of the schools that fought the regime in the schoolyard.
The events nearly 4 decades ago altered the political landscape of the country.
They fought for what was right for South Africa, and we are enjoying the freedom today. It has inspired me to chase my dreams, to make sure I become what I want to be and fight for freedom in my life.
The battle is now waged on different fronts.
We are therefore saying to the youth, take this baton that we've given you today as a challenge from us that says you are the leaders of tomorrow, change our society.
Economic freedom, the most elusive. Gillian Pillay, SABC News, Orlando West, Soweto.
The Marikana miners have lost their urgent court bid to compel President Jacob Zuma to release the Marikana report immediately. They will have to wait until the end of the month for it to be released.
A packed North Gauteng High Court. Miners eager to hear the outcome of their bid. The Marikana Commission was tasked to investigate the events leading to the killing of 44 people in 2012. Commission Chair Judge Ian Fallon handed his report to the President in March. The judge ruled that the court did not have any jurisdiction compelling the President to provide any information. Applicants in the matter argued that the uncertainty around the release date was prejudicing the affected families. They requested the President to give them 2 days' notice before releasing the report.
In the absence of the court order, we will take instructions from client. If they persist with the matter, we can go to the Constitutional Court, but we will also, as a legal team, sit and maybe map our way forward.
Presidency has undertaken to release the report on the 30th of June. Offenses Timo, SABC News, Pretoria.
All right, now it's youth celebrations across the country today, and this is a tribute to the school pupils who lost their lives during the 1976 June 16th uprisings in Soweto. However, the youth of today are faced with many, many more challenges of drug abuse, unemployment, HIV and AIDS, and the list is endless. Joining us in studio for more on the issue of young people is Loyiso Lugayeni, who is the Regional Secretary of the ANC Youth League in Greater Johannesburg. A very good morning to you and welcome to Morning Live.
Thank you for having me.
I mean, everybody's going to be speaking about Youth Day today because that is, of course, the order of the day here in South Africa as we all celebrate a public holiday. But there are so many challenges that still face our youth. And one would say that perhaps we're not honouring that class of 76 in a way that 39 years ago they had envisaged the youth of today to have a very different kind of future.
Thank you very much for having me. Well, first and foremost, we must salute the generation of 1976, very courageous. And for us, our view is that they are a shining example of what we must do in order for us to face our own challenges. They were courageous. They were able to stand up and unite against what they believed was injustice, oppression in that current time. Our fight is different. It's economic freedom. You've indicated that we do have a number of challenges, but those challenges will not be solved if young people of this country are not united. So the first step is nation building, dialogue through all channels that are there, public debate, create platforms where young people are the ones who stand up, united as one in order for us to be able to be the ones who are in the forefront of our own challenges currently. You made an example. You said when in your opening you said HIV is one of our challenges, drug abuse. An example that we can do is if we are to fight drug abuse, it's us who must go out there. We know where the lolly lounges are. It's us who must fight and march in our communities and challenge the police, challenge government to close down those lolly lounges, because as young people, it's us who must stand up, for an example, to fight those particular.
As you mentioned and you alluded to, our challenges are very different to the challenges of 1976. However, we can take a leaf as young people out of their book in terms of their bravery and their ability to stand up and show the world that they won't stand for certain things that are unjust and incorrect. What are some of the successes, though, that we've had as a youth, or do you think we've actually gone backwards?
There are successes that we can congratulate 39 years later. For an example, the access to free primary education. For the ANC Youth League, that is a step in the right direction, although we believe that it shouldn't stop there. We must be able to have access to free higher education as well as young people. Also, with the TVET colleges, you've got a drive where the government is pushing skills development. We know that it's a beginning, and we are actually saying the skills revolution must actually be pushed by us young people. That's why we must be organized, because once we are organized, we are then able to say, through policies and through debate, then the government is able to push hard in actually listening to young people. So in those strides, for another example, you'll find that in schools now, the government is providing sanitary towels for free. That is a step in actually realizing that the dignity of young girls, the importance of education in order to keep them at school. So there's a start, although more needs to be done, particularly as it relates to skills and education.
Yeah, certainly. And sometimes when you look at the challenges, they just seem so much greater than the successes that we have had and the things that we have had to smile about. Sometimes the challenges, they do seem so enormous. And I know it's something that you as the Youth League are trying to tackle along with the organisation. Thank you very much. Unfortunately, that's all we've got time for. So do have a wonderful day ahead.
Thank you.
All right, that's the ANC Youth League in Greater Johannesburg and their view on today's celebrations, which are going to be had around the country. Let's close off our news bulletin by bringing you your market indicators, starting with your currencies. Now, the rand was flat yesterday, unchanged from its earlier levels, with trade being somewhat subdued owing to today being a public holiday. The rand to the dollar trading at 12 rand 40 cents, to the British pound 19 rand 35, to the euro 13 rand 99, and one of Botswana's pulo will cost you 1 rand 24 cents. The local market, the JSE, closed weaker following softer global markets rattled by concerns over Greece, and that concern had an effect on all the markets. The JSE down 51,297, that's at 1.13%. European equities closed sharply lower after talks between Greece and its creditors collapsed at the weekend, raising the prospect that Greece could default on its debt obligations. The FTSE down 6,710, the DAX 10,984, and the CAC 4,815. On Wall Street, U.S. stocks closed lower yesterday as investors remained anxious over stalled Greece debt talks and the upcoming two-day Federal Reserve meeting. The Dow Jones down 17,791, the S&P 500 2,084, and the Nasdaq 5,029. Asian shares declined earlier this morning as Greece's debt talks and the upcoming two-day Federal Reserve meeting sapped risk appetite. The Nikkei down 260 rather. The Hang Seng 26,731, and the Kospi 2,017. And finally, for a look at your commodities, a barrel of Brent crude is $64.26. For an ounce of platinum, $1,090.30, and for the same unit of gold, $1,186. All right, that was your 7 o'clock news bulletin. We'll bring you your news headlines at 7:30 just to keep you up to speed with those news stories that we are tracking. Do stay with Morning Live. We'll have more after this.
Catch all these and more every day on Sports Live at 8:30 p.m. on the SABC News Channel.
The issue becomes on how you do what you want to do in effecting change. Change has to happen. There's no question about that.
African heroes who have not been feted, who do not have the statues and the memorials.
We misunderstood reconciliation to mean status quo should be preserved in some instances.
I was asking people who are managing Hector Peterson, they said to us, no, the person who's cleaning the area, an ordinary person, not even the curator, somebody who's cleaning, the area there, an ordinary person in the street will fight with you if you do anything wrong with those statues.
That's Rights and Recourse, Sundays 2 p.m. on SABC News.
Welcome to AM News here on SABC News Channel 404.
So the people who also should be concerned are the people who voted for people of that ilk.
South Africa is indeed a unique country. And South Africa has a democracy that is very exceptional.
If people want to change the rules, do it properly, do it within the context of the Rules Committee within Parliament. And when you shout, it doesn't mean people are listening to you.
But there is a point of authority that must always prevail.
The ANC is very determined. We will not allow South Africa's Parliament to be dragged down into the mud, and we will defend the Constitution and Parliament.
I think our country is really being torn to pieces. And I think that the struggle for liberation didn't take place for people to play the fool like this in our country.
That's AM News, daily at 10 a.m. on SABC News.
That the mighty have fallen, who's going to watch over us, preach over us, take over us, took our land. These statues represent those who stole from us. They owe us reparations for everything that they gained through us. These statues remind us of an apartheid legacy. My own story remains a mystery, a forgery, confusory, for I have been labeled a born free. My freedom is a dome freeze. Andilazi ibalilam kotwa nifuna ndilazi elabo. Now that the mighty have fallen, now that the mighty have fallen, now that the mighty have fallen. The African child is victorious, and the apartheid generation is getting nervous. They fear us. Bayasaba. The beautiful ones are born, and we need an explanation. It's an abomination to idolize those who are part of your dehumanization. The beautiful ones are born, and we need an explanation. It's an abomination to idolize those who are part of your dehumanization. Whose stories are we celebrating? Which legacies are our future generations celebrating? Or does it not matter? And why are we so self-erasing? Now that the mighty have fallen, now that the mighty have fallen, now that the mighty have fallen, now that the mighty have fallen.
Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, Tsiki Mazwai, thought-provoking, inspirational, and as I mentioned, enlightening. This is what we expect from her, nothing less. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you, Siswam.
Also accompanied by Stephen Mlangeni, your guitarist, who played so beautifully for us. You might be hearing a little bit of utterances in the background. That's because as we're having this conversation and this performance, we're speaking live from a wreath-laying ceremony that's taking place just a stone's throw away from where we are this morning, which begs the question, Ntsiki, and this is a topic that you've been discussing via Twitter as well. Do we celebrate or do we mourn today?
We do not celebrate, we commemorate Freedom Youth Day. We do not celebrate that our youth had to die. We do not celebrate that our people were oppressed. We do not celebrate anything about apartheid. We are remembering a painful time, a tragic time, and it's important for our youth to be conscious about that. It's not about school uniform parties. It's about what have you got to give to the country.
Have we learned the lessons that that fateful day taught us as a people?
I don't think so. I don't think so. I think that we've been getting drunk for the past 21 years, and now the dust is starting to settle, and now we need to fully understand that 13-year-olds, 10-year-olds died. And in an ugly fashion, there was an army that was put out for children. That has never happened in the world, and we need to recognize that as South Africans, that it was a shame what happened.
How do we remember them? How would you like to see us honor them? And not only today, but going forward.
You know, I just wish the youth would take more responsibility. I feel as if June 16 is about what can you do. For instance, the youth should be maybe picking up litter in the communities, gathering themselves as the youth. The youth should not be using today to get drunk. The youth, we need to sit down. The statues issue, I mean, I just did the poem right now, The Mighty Have Fallen. I dedicate that to the youth of 76 and of 2015 because it's these young people that are brave enough to stand up for African people. So it's incredibly important that we're conscious of where we are and what's happening. The statues must fall. Winnie Mandela must rise. Chris Hani must rise. Steve Biko must rise. Our own African heroes must rise.
You are someone who has been labeled as quite controversial. You speak of the brave of 1976. You are quite brave in your utterances. You're looking towards making sure that it's not business as usual, that we rattle the status quo somewhat. What is it that you seek to achieve?
I seek to achieve the dismantling of this apartheid system that has affected our family structures, has affected economics, has affected our being. So we need to sit down and figure out what is it that they taught us that we need to unlearn. These things like religion and this concept of education, can we not educate ourselves? Why is it that we have clung onto this notion of education that's so westernized? So there's a lot of things that we need to sit down and just dismantle apartheid. Sit down, look at Verwoerd, all his the structures and the departments of each thing. Our generation is the new leaders. So we need to find all the scientists, all the artists, all the politicians, all the strong ones. Everybody needs to group together now, and we need to start creating new systems that are going to work and create African solutions.
We'll have to leave it there, I'm afraid. There's never enough time to speak about these issues, but they're quite important. This is the discourse that's coming up among the young people. These are some of the conversations and the dialogues that they're having as they start to do some introspection, taking a look at themselves as a people and also the country that we live in. And this is what we hope to impart to you today. As you go about your day, just think about where we are. Think about the youth of 1976 and put them together, juxtapose them against the youth of 2015, and let's see where we are and where we can go. I'm going to leave you with a little bit more from Ntsiki Mazwai and accompanied, as I said, by her guitarist Stephen Mlangeni.
There were guns blazing, tear gas in
Thank you very much, Ayanda. Yes, certainly a very important day for reflection across the country, and we do look forward to some more very interesting conversations coming out of Soweto in further crossings a little bit later on. But it's time now for sports news, and speaking about young people, England will face New Zealand for the World Rugby Under-20 Championship title. The English defending champions beat the Junior Springboks 20-28 in their semi-final match. South Africa's ill discipline cost them with 2 yellow cards in the opening 30 minutes for high tackles, which gave England the advantage up front. First, Hanro Liebenberg, the South African captain, and number 8 was yellow carded when South Africa was 3 points behind. But when Jason Jenkins was sent off for the same offence, James Chisholm scored the first try of the match from a driving maul. England were afforded a penalty try on the stroke of half-time, and when Jennings slotted the easy conversion, the English were 18-6 in front at half-time. In the second half, South Africa were better, but with 9 minutes left on the clock, the English outside centre Nick Tompkins went over to score England's third try, and it was a bridge too far for the baby box to come back from. Substitute Malcolm Jair crossed the line for the first junior box try in the 77th minute, and then Daniel du Plessis reduced the deficit even further in a losing cause in the dying minutes of the match.
South Africa will get another score.
England will contest their third successive final. Meanwhile, the junior Springboks will now contest the bronze final on Saturday against France, who earlier yesterday lost against New Zealand in the other semi-final. The baby All Blacks beat France 45-7 in a one-sided semi-final. The Kiwis were too strong for the French, scoring 6 tries against 1. Let's take a look at some of the highlights of that match.
And they break. This could be the first try of the match. They're going forward. France looking great. France are over! Fresh try to France. The man's Caste just kept their ball. 108 Ks. 22 Fayane. Leonard Brown. Leonard Brown's got Lee on the outside. He's got too much space. Players on the inside. Here's Fayane. One more pass to Lee. Tavita Lee. Lee inside the 22. Will they catch him? No, they won't. Tavita Lee becomes the top New Zealand try scorer in the history of under-20 World Championships rugby. The feed, Ioane goes off the back. Akira Ioane. Ioane hits, spins, and scores! Try time for the Baby Blacks. Akira Ioane gets up his third try here in Italy. Building phases here. New Zealand ball on the inside. Tavita Lee's through. Tavita Lee goes equal with Andrew Callaway to score 12 tries in the Rugby Championships of 2015. Well, Leonard Brown looks up and kicks it ahead. Lee is chasing Tavita Lee. He'll get it! Tavita Lee could get a hat-trick. Lee for the hat-trick. Lee is in! First real opportunity.
Let's move on to some football news now. Bafana midfielder Tulani Serrero says the team has to make things right by capitalising on their opportunities when they take on Angola in an international friendly at the Cape Town Stadium today. Bafana is experiencing a wave of criticism for not scoring enough goals following their goalless draw against Gambia in their AFCON 2017 qualifier in Durban over the weekend.
Fitting for the doom and gloom hanging over the national soccer team. This after the team was held to a disappointing goalless draw by Gambia in the opening 2017 African Cup of Nations qualifier on Saturday. The lack of goals is a perennial problem, a problem Mashaba says he doesn't have the time to fix days ahead of a match.
It should be directed to the right level. It's shocking to hear people talking about things like basics. You don't deal with basics in the national team. No chance. No chance. This should be done at the lower level.
It was the first time South Africa had been involved in 3 0-0 draws in a row, following stalemates against Botswana and Malawi in the COSAFA Cup. But the players are adamant that it will come right and that the spirit in the camp is still positive.
I don't know, if you're watching the training, we always work on it. So I think it will happen as time goes on, because I think we cannot miss so many chances in the game. I think we will get right, and there's no one to blame. You cannot blame the strikers, you cannot blame anybody.
Angola arrive in Cape Town full of confidence after crushing the Central African Republic 4-0 on Saturday. The good news for Bafana is that in 7 matches between the two countries, South Africa have won 4 with 3 draws. Craig Murray, SABC News, Cape Town.
And finally, the Eastern Cape Department of Sport is under fire from a former world champion boxer for allegedly not honouring a promise to assist him with defending his title on home soil. Former IBF junior bantamweight champ Zolani Tete gave up the belt after turning down an offer to defend it in Puerto Rico. He wanted to fight on home soil and says he was promised financial assistance to achieve that.
Tete vacated the IBF belt last week. An offer to defend it was turned down, saying the money offered to fight in Puerto Rico was insufficient.
I think I deserve the kind of pairs that other champions who are IBF champions are getting. As an IBF junior bantamweight title, I think I didn't need to go there and fight for a pairs that not even a South African champion can defend that money for.
Tete says he was promised assistance to defend the title at home when he won the belt. The Provincial Sports Department says it is not as easy as that and processes must be followed.
The government funds, you can't promise one that, you are entitled to this. But all what we're saying is that we have got a process that will accommodate. That is the mega sporting events.
Eastern Cape boxers are urging the government and the private sector to fund boxing in the province, which is believed to be a nursery of world-class talent. Usisiwe Jamsana, SABC News, East London.
Okay, it's gone 7:30. Let's bring you your news headlines. The African Union Commission chairperson, Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma, says there was nothing untoward about Sudanese President Omar al-Bashir attending the AU summit. She says the summit was run under AU rules and that South Africa had no say in the matter. Al-Bashir returned to Sudan on Sunday night ahead of a North Gauteng High Court ruling that compelled the government to arrest him. Hundreds of pupils have converged on the Hector Peterson Memorial at Orlando West in Soweto for a symbolic walk ahead of Youth Day celebrations today. They retrace the steps of the class of 1976 with some of the former pupils who were part of the protest 4 decades ago. And an investigation is underway after another train crash in Johannesburg. At least 7 people were injured, 3 seriously, when the last 2 coaches of a train derailed at the Doornfontein station yesterday afternoon. It follows a collision between 2 trains at Denver in Johannesburg in April, in which 1 person was killed and over 200 were injured. All right, that was your 7:30 headline news bulletin. Stay tuned for a full news bulletin at the top of the hour or with the SABC News as we continue to track breaking news stories. Tsietsi, we're going to check in with you. This morning you've been showing us some magnificent pictures, and I know that you've got one now of Soweto. It looks like it's going to be a rather fine youth day across the country.
Yep, yeah, indeed. Thank you so much. And I'm giving you magnificent photos and the bumper things as well, everything in the background. Yeah, this is Soweto coming up. Just have a look at it. A little bit of a fog expected here and there, but it's going to burn off very, very fast. The sun is coming up nicely, although it's still going to be a very cold day. So I hope everybody that's commemorating the day, 16th of June, should go out there and do it responsibly and do it in a more meaningful way and also enjoy the sunny day that is expected there. Let's have a look what the sunny weather is going to do for the rest of the province. You'll see into Gauteng, it's going to be nice and clear throughout the central parts. And if you look into, yes, there we go. Our temperatures for Pretoria, 23 degrees. If you're down to Mamelodi as well as over Mabopane, I'd expect temperatures into about 23 degrees. Everybody in Springs, 21 is coming up, and then Soweto is at 22. Vereeniging and Sharpeville are expected to be quite cold for today. Temperatures into the lower 20s. This is Johannesburg for the next 5 days. Sunny skies today, tomorrow, as well as over Thursday. But just have a look at what the temperatures are doing. 22 today, right? Remember that, nice and warm, 22. Tomorrow, 14 degrees, very cold weather coming up, and then about the 17 and 18 towards Friday. Saturday is expected at 18 degrees. If you're going to be in Kempton Park, temperatures are also going to drop along those paths. Polokwane is at 26, 28 for Thohoyandou, and Musina at 31 degrees. This is Lephalale also for the next 5 days. Sunny skies up until Saturday, 27, 23, and 22. For the next 3 days, it will pick up to 25 again by Thursday. And it looks like it's going to be a pretty sunny day for Mpumalanga province. Skukuza nice and hot at 34 degrees. Mbobela is at 27 degrees. And your conditions are not going to improve much towards places such as Vryheid at a maximum of only 24. And then it doesn't look like it's going to get better for the Eastern Cape province, as we're seeing partly cloudy skies and rainy weather dominating the central regions, going all the way towards Willowmore as well as over Somerset East. Grahamstown will reach a maximum of around 18 degrees. And then it is going to get a bit colder towards the Western Cape provinces. Rainy weather is expected to dominate into Cape Town at only 15 degrees. Hermanus will also be at 15, and then it is expected to remain a little bit sunny towards the northern parts as you move towards Vredendal, but that's not going to change much. Temperatures will also be at around 16 degrees for tomorrow and over Thursday, and then some rainy weather is approaching the southern parts of the Northern Cape province, with temperatures going as low as -5 towards Sutherland, Calvinia -1 to a maximum of 11, Kimberley -1 to 16 degrees, and 19 towards a place such as Postmasburg and Kuruman. Kroonstad is at 20 degrees, Odendal's Rest also reaching a maximum of 20, 17, only 17 for Bloemfontein for today. Cold weather is expected there. Frankfurt starts off at -2 to 20, Vicksburg -1 to 16 degrees. Those sub-zero temperatures are really not sharing some good light for the Free State province. But the northwest, a little bit of improvement for Tosca, 26 degrees, Mabatu 23, Itusseng 22, and everybody that's going to be in Ganalachte, closer to Della Revel, should expect temperatures there at around 21. Vryburg is at 23, and in this cold weather, you can still save yourself electricity bills by using this. Moving from electrical appliances such as oven heaters, ovens and your stoves, and get a gas oven which uses only 6% of its total energy. That's really, really good. It will save us the planet, will lead to a greener planet, and it will save you on electricity bills. That's all for now. I'll see you again later. Stay tuned.
Engulfed in crises. That's how the United Front sees South Africa.
This South Africa is not one of our dreams. It is not the country we deserve and demand. This South Africa is not meeting the needs of its young people.
Well, President Jacob Zuma said Eskom's woes are a challenge but not a crisis.
We have a plan to deal with the matter, and it's a good plan. When we can say we have a crisis, now we have a challenge and we've got a solution.
That's business news, weekdays at 6 p.m. on SABC News.
We need your help, Dr. King. This thing.
The historical film, directed by Ava DuVernay, is about Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and his campaign for black voting rights in 1965.
The pictures Uche paints are sold for $1,470 to $2,000. He says these pictures are not necessarily for financial gain, but to create debate about the power situation in Nigeria. Based for most of the decade in the United States, Mfumo has not performed in his homeland of Zimbabwe since then. So his March performance with his band, the Blacks Unlimited, will no doubt be welcomed by the large community of Zimbabweans who call South Africa home.
Join Musa Mkhalipi on Afro Showbiz every Saturday at 19:30 CAT.
A woman is way more likely to be killed by a lover, her husband, than she is by anyone else.
Christopher Panayuto, accused of orchestrating the murder of his wife, Jade, is to apply for bail in a bid to get out of the overcrowded cells and escape the samp and beans diet.
Here is a man that's accused of killing his wife. He's worried about the special diet. He's worried that he's eating beans and samp there.
Sadly, a fan was also reportedly killed in a scuffle with police during the pitch invasion.
I'm surprised that the city press is going with the picture of the celebration instead of showing us the picture of the person that has been killed.
Watch Media Monitor with me, Alicia Jali, Sundays at 9 a.m. only on the SABC News channel.
Welcome back. You're watching Morning Live, and the show, along with the rest of South Africa, are remembering this important day, June 16th. We are celebrating those brave young class of 1976 that stood up for what they believe in. And is it a day that we celebrate? Is it a day that we mourn? Is it a day that we just sit and remember and reflect? These are some important things that we hope that young people are actually getting into discussion about and having some dialogue about. Let's check in with Leanne. She's in Freedom Park in Pretoria and find out who her next guest is. Leanne, is it a day that we celebrate, or is it a day that we just use to reflect?
Valen, I think it possibly is a bit of both, but I think the commemorate really does overshadow sometimes the celebrations because of the lives that were lost in 1976. It really was a stand that they took against the apartheid system that they were completely against. So, you know, when I say it's a little bit of both, I think one could understand that. As much as you celebrate what they stood up for, you celebrate for the fact that they achieved so much during that time. You celebrate for the fact that they were strong enough to realize that what was going on in their lives was wrong and that they knew that there was a better life waiting for them. But at the same time, you commemorate those lives that were lost. And you look at the photographs that are being posted all over social media that are being brought up once again today for all of us to remember what happened on that day exactly 39 years ago. Now, when we look forward to today, we mark National Youth Day with the theme, The Revolution Continues. So we talk about this revolution and we ask the question, what is it that this generation faces? And, you know, it faces a lot. There's a lot of trouble that this generation is going through when it comes to the youth. We've mentioned them over and over again, and I don't think we can mention them enough, whether it is unemployment, whether it's the scourge of drugs, whether it's alcohol, whether it's a lack of parenting, so many child-headed households. There is just so much. So let's talk about what we are doing for the youth of 2015. And joining me now at Freedom Park, I've got the Deputy Minister in the Presidency, Buti Manamela. It's good to have you. Welcome to a very, very chilly morning, but you're lucky you got your shoes back on. Because
I got my shoes back on,
yeah.
And good morning, Leanne, and also to viewers at home. It's chilly.
It is. It's very chilly. But I suppose why I need to explain why you took your shoes off. There's an interfaith prayer service that I'm not sure, I think it might have just ended. You were a part of it in the sacred area. You have to take your shoes off. Yeah. Talk to me about the significance of this.
Look, I mean, we were in a place called Isivivane, and as I'm told, it's a place where it's an integration of all cultures, of all religion, but the most important thing about it is unity. It's getting together, so we had the different interfaith groups praying, but we also had, everyone who was here holding hands as a sign of unity around the 11 boulders, which represent all the provinces, and also one which represent the national and one which represent international. I think the most important thing is that it is young people who are opening with prayers June 16, 1976. I mean, 39 years ago it was a different story. But today, as a sign of gratitude, as a sign of, thanksgiving of some of sorts, we say to them, we thank you, but, most of the interfaith groups were saying, we're also marching forward. It's a time for reflection and a time to look into the future, to celebrate and, to plan, to ensure that the future looks brighter for all the youth of our country. So essentially that's why this was important.
Is the future brighter for the youth coming up now? I mean, because when we talk about the youth, and I'm not taking away from those exceptional youngsters that are out there, because, wow, I mean, I look at my generation and I don't think we had such shining stars when I was young as we do now, because there are some unbelievable individuals out there, and I never ever want us to stop emphasizing them. However, the problems facing the youth are so massive, it sometimes is difficult to see that shining light. So, what are we doing for them? How are we helping them get over the problems?
Yeah. Look, I mean, I think, yes, there are challenges. I mean, the 1 in 3 young people are unemployed. We have young people who, give themselves into drugs, alcohol. We've got young people who, are infected or affected by HIV/AIDS. We've got a variety of challenges and problems that young people are confronted with. But I would want to regard this year, 2015, as the year of youth. I mean, it is the year where, in the first half, we interacted with thousands of young people who said to us, we think this is where we need to go, through the National Youth Policy process. But also young people who said, we are not necessarily angry as people suggest that we are in the whole. Albeit all of these problems. There are more young people today who are going to school. There are more young people today who have got access to opportunities in universities. There are more young people today who, choose to contribute in a much more constructive way, to a better South Africa. And I think that, yes, we need to celebrate those, as you say, but I think that in the same vein and in the same voice, we also need to remember that South Africa belongs to all of us, and a better South Africa should be about, those who are faced with a variety of challenges. So I think, the balance of the last 21 years and also the balance of the last 39 years, as this is the 39th anniversary of June 16, that balance tells us that there is actually, a positive generation of young people who are looking forward towards a better South Africa, much better than that confronted by your generation, by their parents and their parents' parents.
Yeah, indeed. A difficult question I'm going to ask you now, and I think this question pertains to leadership, because when you are young, you always want to find somebody to look up to. You want to find somebody to aspire to be like. We find that a lot of our children here are living in households that don't even have parents, that they are in fact bringing up their brothers and sisters and their cousins. And I mean, it's a system that it's very, very sad. But at the same time, we look at the leadership that we have right now, whether it be we switch on Parliament and we see things happening, we see fighting happening in the media, and we see an example that isn't necessarily something that we would want our youth to follow in these footsteps. How do you feel? I mean, you're a leader, you're part of this government. I suppose, what is an explanation from your side in terms of leadership and the example we're setting?
Look, I mean, I think there are certain things that, do not deserve an explanation. There are certain things which we believe are unfortunate. And I think that, one of the things that has to be done and has to be done urgently is, at least at a political level, all political parties need to engage in terms of whether do we want to continue setting the example that, young people see on television. One of our, colleagues was saying to me that she thinks that if we allow what, for instance, is happening in Parliament continues, where young people are taught that conflict is resolved through violence, through insults, through shouting at each other, but also that, we misinterpret being radical. Radical these days means to be rude, to be disrespectful, not to take into consideration of your colleagues and of your compatriots. But I think that the bigger even challenge is that we have to inculcate and cultivate youth leadership at a local level, be it in politics, be it in business, be it in churches, everywhere. I think that we need that youth leadership. We're turning 21 as a country, as a democracy, as a free country. And when you turn 21, you tend to reflect on a lot of things that has happened, over the years, as is tradition. You're getting a key, as we say, so, and it is that time when we have to remind ourselves, particularly as the generation of young people, that, we are here precisely because of the compromises, of the negotiations, of the discussions. People had to give away a lot, not only those who went to prison, not only those who went into exile, but even people who were in office, people who were the leadership of this country in 1994, had to give in that power, had to compromise through negotiations, through engagement. And I think that we need to remember that yes, there was blood spilled on the sidelines, but at the core of where we are today was the fact that there was negotiations, there was engagement. Let us have that dialogue. Let us remember that we can only resolve whatever conflicts that we have through dialogue. And I think we also need to extend that, into other countries in the continent. South Africa is taking leadership, in Sudan, in Burundi. We've contributed in resolving conflicts in many other parts of the country. We therefore cannot fail, to resolve issues around, service delivery, issues around unemployment and all of that in a way that will at the end help all South Africans.
All right, Buti Manamela, thank you very, very much for talking to us. Buti Manamela is the Deputy Minister in the Presidency talking to us on this Youth Day. I know you making your way now to the stadium where the main event is going to be taking place, where the President is going to be addressing the youth. So enjoy the day and thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Leah.
An absolute pleasure. All right, let's take a break here on Morning Live. We'll see you after this. Stay tuned.
Nelson Mandela. That was, for me, having an opportunity to make a film about something he said. He's one of my heroes, and he makes me proud to be African.
Mandela spent 27 years in Robben Island and in other jails as a result of his struggle to end apartheid in South Africa before becoming the country's first black president in 1994.
So you make movies, like Spielberg?
Yeah, I make movies like Spielberg.
Join Musam Khalifi on Afro Showbiz every Saturday at 19:30 CAT.
Sparks fly over Verwoerd. Let's now have a look at this. Now, Verwoerd, the comment yesterday in Judge, Mr. Sparks lived up to his name and caused quite a few sparks.
It was quite shocking for me to hear him compare H.F. Verwoerd to Helen Zille in terms of her orator skills.
Mugabe to compensate white farmers for land grab.
I don't know if I'm justified to call it truth and reconciliation Mugabe style.
Watch Media Monitor with me, Alicia Jali, Sundays at 9 a.m. only on the SABC News Channel. Welcome back to Orlando West. We're coming live to you from the Hector Peterson Memorial. The sun is firmly in the sky now, a little bit warmer than it was. We can see the reflection of the sun just bouncing off of the memorial stone here. The water symbolizing the blood that was shed and also the cleansing thereof, as a reminder that we as a country come from a very devastating past, and also as a promise that we should never return to that dark place ever again. And in order for us to make sure that we never relive any of those tragic scenes, we as a people, you and I, need to take charge of our future and our country. And in order to do that, we're going to get a little bit of coaching now from someone who's an inspirational speaker. He's an entrepreneur and an all-round nice guy. He's one of those do-gooders. I'm joined by Billy Guy Pembe. Very good morning. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Ayanda, and good morning to all the viewers of Morning Live, and a happy Youth Day to the entire Mzansi.
Thank you so much. Now, speak to us a little bit. You know, when we were discussing the youth of 1976, what came to mind is that they took initiative. You know, they saw the situation was dire. They knew they needed to do something. They never went to the left or to the right to find someone to do it, but they rose up themselves. Speak to us about what we can learn in 2015 about that. I think it begins with curiosity, you said.
You know, Ayanda, that's a great place to start because, first of all, let's just take this morning how cold it was arriving here. But looking at the pictures of what had happened on that day here, those kids were dressed in school uniform in the very same weather. Those kids were very ambitious, brave, they were curious. But let's go to the word curiosity, which for me, a lot of young people is what we need to sort of start working on. How curious are you about the developments within your community? How curious are you about who is leading you within that community? How curious are you about how many books are in your library? How curious are you about the right subjects? I always say, let's avoid being masters or, you know, those who are masters of the wrong department. Now, you are a master of knowing what a monate or guy. You are a master of knowing, you know, what's the nicest car brand. But you're not a master of knowing, you know, the degrees can end up getting you to be a PhD. You're not a master of finding out you can be a leader in your community one day. And ultimately also ambition is one of my favorite words. I often say that ambition is what turned a child from a mud house into a doctor. Ambition is what made Nelson Mandela president. Ambition was what the June 16 students did. They were ambitious for their future. They were looking forward for something great, something that was going to revolutionize the country. I say their struggle was about freedom. What is our current struggle? And we may put economy there, but let's start with something. We need a mind shift. We need young people to start thinking, yes, back in the day, apartheid is what made a lot of people be closed-minded about a lot of things. But we need to explore. We need to see what other people are doing. Most importantly, we need to take education very seriously because it can change a young person's life.
My goodness, I couldn't agree with you more. Unfortunately, we've come to the end of this interview. Very, very short indeed. But I hope you picked up on those key issues. Curiosity, wherever you are. You know, for me, it's about manufacturing in the country. That's where young people need to focus their attention on. So if you like your braids and your weaves, be curious about where these things are made and how you can make them better so that we can become a productive and not just a consuming nation. Just a point to ponder as we leave it there. I'm going to leave you with some music from a young South African who's also quite feisty. She's talented and she's also very curious about the world around her. She sings about it. We'll get a little glimpse from her after this short ad break.
SABC News seeks to be the biggest, the most extensive and diverse news organization on the continent. Our mission is to provide accurate and credible news and current affairs programming throughout the day. We are committed to covering every part of the continent. We reflect the world to Africa and Africa to the world. SABC News, Africa's news leader. Now available throughout the continent.
Scientists are confident they have found the source of the outbreak, a bat colony in southeastern Guinea. Meanwhile, a U.S. drug manufacturer has announced that it has started clinical trials of an experimental Ebola vaccine.
And this is the first examination in the country to have that high level of quality. And for us as a province to be number one is indeed exciting.
Another test victory. Victory number 2 in this series, punched away for 4.
Brent crude oil that we import for our fuel falling below $50 a barrel today. Now that's for the first time in about 5.5 years.
The Lagos skyline is a static scene, but on the streets of Nigeria's capital, change is afoot. This is now Africa's biggest economy.
For all your business news, stay tuned to your favorite channel, SABC News, at 1 Monday to Friday.
For the farmer, fire sometimes epitomizes a new beginning, purifying and cleansing the ravages of winter. With the help of the Children of Fire, Mita is now a social worker manager and helping other survivors to unleash their potential.
People should just allow people who are disabled or disfigured or whatever to be who they are.
Now happy and a bit more confident, Ntabiseng helps around at the Children of Fire with chores.
People must come with a full heart to give, not to do the selfie, ach shame, here's me and a burn kid.
Join me, Rifio Wemwilwa, on Bopelong every Saturday at 17:30.
Fallen heroes, struggle icons. Watch SABC News for a live broadcast of the June 16 commemoration event, where President Jacob Zuma will deliver a keynote address. Tuesday, 16 June, live from the Pretoria Showgrounds, celebrating the legacy of the 1976 youth, only on the SABC News channel.
It's just gone 8 o'clock on this June 16th Youth Day across South Africa. Good morning to you. Let's bring you your main news bulletin at this hour. The African Union Commission chairperson, Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma, says there was nothing untoward about Sudanese President Omar al-Bashir attending the AU summit. She says the summit was run under AU rules and that South Africa had no say in the matter. Al-Bashir returned to Sudan yesterday despite a North Gauteng High Court ruling that he should remain in the country.
Your Excellency's heads
the summit that went late into the night and a press conference that ended only after midnight, overshadowed by the attendance of the Sudanese president. The AU said there was nothing untoward as this was its summit.
An AU summit is not a bilateral meeting. It's a multilateral organization, and when a country hosts it according to the rules of the AU, not according to its own rules. Before a country hosts, it signs a host country agreement with the AU, which spells out what is expected of the host.
This is not the headquarters of ICC anyway. And we don't want it in this region at all. And there is the view now that we should distance ourselves from the ICC.
But the summit did discuss its business, reaffirming gender parity, launching the Continental Free Trade Area, and endorsing Agenda 2063 Action Plan.
The heads of state and government here present have collectively adopted and fully endorsed the first 10-year implementation plan of Agenda 2063. We have committed ourselves to commence the implementation of the flagship projects to spur economic growth and prosperity in Africa.
The summit concluded by recommitting to implementing the decisions taken. The next AU summit will be in January next year in Addis Ababa. SABC News, Johannesburg.
Meanwhile, government has undertaken to look into how the Sudanese president managed to leave the country. Acting cabinet spokesperson Pumla Williams says the government will comply with the High Court order, giving it 7 days to file an affidavit on exactly when and how he left.
High Court proceedings closely watched here at home and across the globe. Human rights organizations led by the South African Litigation Center against the government, fighting for al-Bashir's arrest. The Litigation Center argued that South Africa was obligated by international law to ensure his arrest. The court agreed.
It is declared by this court, declared and ordered, one, that the conduct of the respondents, to the extent that they have failed to take steps to arrest and or detain the President of the Republic of Sudan, Omar Hassan Ahmad al-Bashir, President Bashir, is inconsistent with the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa 1996 and invalid. That the respondents are forthwith compelled to take all reasonable steps to prepare to arrest President Bashir without a warrant.
The state had argued that the immunity granted to people attending the AU summit included heads of states. It was only later informed of al-Bashir's departure.
I have been informed by the government that they have reliable information that President al-Bashir has departed from the Republic on his way to the Sudan. So the Minister of State Security and the Minister in the Presidency have informed me that the circumstances of his departure will be fully investigated.
The Litigation Center welcomed the court's ruling that al-Bashir should have been arrested.
We are very happy at the order that was handed down by the court today, as it confirms that South African government authorities are under an obligation to arrest any fugitive from the ICC.
The court ordered government to submit a detailed affidavit within 7 days detailing when and where al-Bashir left the country. Sibongile Mganimbolweni, SABC News, North Gauteng High Court in Pretoria.
Hundreds of pupils have converged on the Hector Peterson Memorial at Orlando West in Soweto for a symbolic walk ahead of Youth Day.
A symbolic walk, retracing the steps of the class of 76. Enos Nguchane was in the front lines of the historic protest. His memory is still vivid.
A week before June 16, the apartheid regime came into our school with the sole purpose of arresting me as one of the student leaders. Of course, their car was overturned and set ablaze. That's why we pride ourselves as Naledi High, as one of the schools that fought the regime in the schoolyard.
The events nearly 4 decades ago altered the political landscape of the country.
They fought for what was right for South Africa, and we are enjoying the freedom today. It has inspired me to chase my dreams, to make sure I become what I want to be and fight for freedom in my life.
The battle is now waged on different fronts.
We are therefore saying to the youth, take this baton that we've given you today as a challenge from us that says you are the leaders of tomorrow, change our society.
Economic freedom, the most elusive. Gillian Pillay, SABC News, Orlando West, Soweto.
Youth Day celebrations and commemorations will be broadcast live on SABC 1 today between 10 and 12:30. The Marikana miners have lost their urgent court bid to compel President Jacob Zuma to release the Marikana report immediately. They will have to wait until the end of the month for it to be released.
A packed North Gauteng High Court. Miners eager to hear the outcome of their bid. The Marikana Commission was tasked to investigate the events leading to the killing of 44 people in 2012. Commission Chair Judge Ian Fallum handed his report to the President in March. The judge ruled that the court did not have any jurisdiction compelling the President to provide any information. Applicants in the matter argued that the uncertainty around the release date was prejudicing the affected families. They requested the President to give them 2 days' notice before releasing the report.
In the absence of the court order, we will take instructions from client. If they persist with the matter, we can go to the Constitutional Court, but we will also, as a legal team, sit and maybe map our way forward.
Presidency has undertaken to release the report on the 30th of June. Offenses Timo, SABC News, Pretoria.
An investigation is underway after another train crash in Johannesburg. At least 7 people were injured, 3 seriously, when the last 2 coaches of a train derailed at the Doornfontein station yesterday afternoon. The Passenger Rail Association, PRASA, says it's not yet known what might have caused the derailment. It follows a collision between 2 trains at Denver and Johannesburg in April, in which 1 person was killed and over 200 injured. Preliminary investigations pointed to driver error. And in the United States, the man hoping to become the third President Bush has announced his bid for the 2016 Republican presidential nomination in Miami. Former Florida Governor Jeb Bush made his announcement at the multiracial school Miami-Dade College. The 62-year-old politician is seeking to be seen as his own man and move out of the White House legacies left by his father and brother. The former presidents George H.W. Bush and George W. Bush did not attend the event. And to conclude your news bulletin, let's take a look at your market indicators, starting with your currencies. The rand was flat yesterday, unchanged from its earlier levels, with trade being somewhat subdued owing to today being a public holiday. The rand to the dollar, 12 rand 40 cents, to the British pound, 19 rand 35, and to the euro, 13 rand 99. One of Botswana's pula will cost you 1 rand 24. The JSE closed weaker following softer global markets rattled by concerns over Greece. The JSE down 51,297. European equities closed sharply lower after talks between Greece and its creditors collapsed at the weekend, raising the prospect that Greece could default on its debt obligations. The FTSE is down 6,710, the DAX 10,984, and the CAC Caron 4,815. On Wall Street, US stocks closed lower yesterday as investors remained anxious over stalled Greece debt talks and the upcoming two-day Federal Reserve meeting. The Dow Jones down 17,791, the S&P 500 2,084, and the Nasdaq 5,029. Asian shares declined earlier this morning as Greece's debt talks and the upcoming two-day Federal Reserve meeting sapped risk appetite. The Nikkei down 20,260, the Hang Seng 26,731, and the Kospi 2,017. And finally, for a look at your commodities, a barrel of Brent crude will cost you $64.26. Platinum, $1,090.30, and an ounce of gold, $1,186. That concludes your main news bulletin at 8 o'clock. Let's check in with Tsietsi, and I'd love to know what the weather looks like in Cape Town, because at 3 o'clock we have Bafana up against Angola in that international friendly.
Thank you, Valen. Well, I wish I knew too. I'm kidding there. Let's have a look at that weather. I know exactly what's going to be happening towards the Western Cape province. We're expecting possibilities of heavy rainfall, and also there's possibilities of high seas along the coastal parts because of gale force winds that are coming in there. They're coming quite strong at 75 kilometers an hour. So if you're along the Western Cape province, please do be extra careful. But if you're going to watch the game, maybe take a raincoat with you there, as we're expecting rainy weather, and also cold weather is expected towards the Western Cape and the Northern Cape, moving towards the Free State, the Eastern Cape province definitely. And then something again to watch out for, KwaZulu-Natal, expecting possibilities of veld fires. So those could be very dangerous, so please do look out for those. The cold front will move all the way towards the northern part, up until even the southern part of Zimbabwe for tomorrow. Possibilities of snowfalls are expected tomorrow. You might want to look out for those. For that, as well as over today, disruptive snowfalls continuing towards the Eastern Cape province. And then your conditional temperatures conditions in Durban, cloudy at the moment. It looks like it's going to be quite a big build-up, and possibilities of showers are expected later on. This is a live visual from Durban. If you're celebrating June 16 along those parts, do enjoy your day. Otherwise, you can watch on SABC 1 just from 10 o'clock. We will be broadcasting live what will be happening here in Gauteng. Pretoria is at 22 degrees, 26 for Polokwane, 28 for Palabora, and Ladysmith in KwaZulu-Natal at 23 degrees. If you're going to be in Van Rieenen, expect temperatures also into the lower 20s. Upington is at 18, Kuruman around 20, or maybe even drop to about 18 degrees as well. Beaufort West 15, 7 for Sutherland, and 6 towards the central part of the Western Cape province. If you're going to be in Karasburg over the southern part of Namibia, expect temperatures at 13 degrees. Keetmanshoop is at 18, 24 for Mariental, 25 for Windhoek, and we're seeing slightly warmer conditions towards Oshakati as it reaches a maximum of 28 degrees. That is all. I'll leave it for now, but do stay tuned. I'll be back around 8:30. Do stay tuned for that.
say that goal was outstanding.
Made so much dust that I couldn't see, and I hit a stone, and we had a puncture.
Catch all these and more every day on Sports Live at 8:30 p.m. on the SABC News channel.
Technology is all around us and is improving lives across Africa, like how young Nigerians are connecting to the internet. There are doctors finding new ways to save lives in Cameroon, and the South African public transport system that is now getting Wi-Fi. We have gadgets, apps and loads more, some of which play a big role in Africa's growth. A huge part of this African growth is technological innovation. To find out a bit more about social media and technology news from here in Africa and abroad, join me, Siphumelele Zondi, every Sunday at 7:30 p.m. on SABC News.
It is 16 minutes past 8 o'clock. Let's bring you sports news now, starting with tennis, where South African player Kevin Anderson has made a cracker of a start to his grass court season. Anderson overcame a spirited fight by Australia's Leighton Hewitt in the opening round of the Queen's Club tennis tournament in London.
Little separated Anderson from Hewitt in the opening set. It went with serve as the pair matched each other blow for blow. But it was the Aussie, a four-time champion at the Queen's Club, who dictated the eventual tiebreaker to claim the first set that lasted close to an hour. Hewitt dominated the second set after breaking the big serving South African with ease in the seventh game. But Anderson wasn't done yet. He saved a match point, breaking back to claim the second set and force a third. With the momentum, Anderson took control in the decider. With an early break, he opened up a 4-1 lead and sealed a 6-7, 7-5, 6-2 victory.
It's over for Leighton Hewitt and Queens.
Earlier, Spain's Fernando Verdasco produced a hard-fought 2-1 victory over his compatriot Roberto Bautista Agut.
In football news, Bafana Bafana head coach Ephraim Sheikh's Mashaba has made 4 changes to the squad that will face Angola today at 3 o'clock. Mashaba has made 2 changes at the back. Anele Ngonga and Riveldo Kutsia take the places of Thabo Matlaba and Tulani Tlachwayo. Bongani Zungu and Jabulani Shongwe have been preferred over Andile Jali and the injured Opa Manyisa as the team look to bounce back from a goalless draw with the Gambia 3 days ago.
Fitting for the doom and gloom hanging over the national soccer team. This after the team was held to a disappointing goalless draw by Gambia in the opening 2017 African Cup of Nations qualifier on Saturday. The lack of goals is a perennial problem, a problem Mashaba says he doesn't have the time to fix days ahead of a match.
It should be directed to the right level. It's shocking to hear people talking about things like basics. You don't deal with basics in the national team. No chance. No chance. This should be done at the lower level.
It was the first time South Africa had been involved in 3 0-0 draws in a row, following stalemates against Botswana and Malawi in the COSAFA Cup. But the players are adamant that it will come right and that the spirit in the camp is still positive.
I don't know, if you watch the training, we always work on it. So I think it will happen as time goes on, because I think we cannot miss so many chances in the game. I think we will get right, and there's no one to blame. You cannot blame the strikers, you cannot blame anybody.
Angola arrive in Cape Town full of confidence after crushing the Central African Republic 4-0 on Saturday. The good news for Bafana is that in 7 matches between the two countries, South Africa have won 4 with 3 draws. Craig Murray, SABC News, Cape Town.
Staying with football news, this time cross-continent, Mateus Vioso scored twice to earn Mexico a 3-3 draw with host Chile at the Copa America tournament. Mexico opened the scoring through striker Mateus Vioso before Arturo Vidal equalized with a header. Raul Jimenez restored Mexico's lead. Before Chile's Eduardo Vargas made the scoreline 2-2 just before half-time. Chile took the lead for the first time in the 55th minute, but Mexico refused to give up, and Vioso scored his second of the game to give his side a vital point and a chance of making the knockout stages of the competition. The match tonight, when it comes to the Copa America, sees Paraguay up against Jamaica. In rugby news, England will face New Zealand for the World Rugby Under-20 Championship title. The English defending champions beat the junior Springboks 20-28 in their semi-final match. South Africa's ill discipline cost them with 2 yellow cards in the opening 30 minutes for high tackles, which gave England the advantage up front. First, Hanro Liebenberg, the South African captain and number 8, was yellow carded when South Africa were just 3 points behind. But when Jason Jenkins was sent off for the same offence, James Chisholm scored the first try from a driving maul. England were afforded a penalty try on the stroke of half-time, and when Jennings started the easy conversion, the English were 18-6 in front at half-time. In the second half, South Africa were better, but with 9 minutes left on the clock, the English outside centre Nick Tompkins went over to score England's third try, and it was a bridge too far for the baby Boks to come back from. Substitute Malcolm Jaya crossed the line for the first junior Bok try in the 77th minute. And then Daniel du Plessis reduced the deficit further in a losing cause in the dying minutes of the match. England will contest their third successive final, while it will be left up to South Africa to play France for the bronze medal at the competition. All right, and that's how we conclude your sport here on Morning Live. Let's check in with Leanne Manners, who is in Pretoria. She's been at Freedom Park following the commemorations that are happening on this June 16th. Leanne, who have you got with you? It looks very, very busy where you are.
It is indeed, Valen. Thank you very, very much. You know, we've actually walked out of Freedom Park, and we're standing at the gate as you enter into the park. And this is where the walk is about to take place. Now, it's a walk that is going to go from here all the way to the Tshwane Showgrounds. And that is where the main celebration and the event for Youth Day is going to be taking place. That's where President Jacob Zuma is going to address the crowds. And as we heard from the Deputy Minister in the Presidency, get in touch with the youth, find out what it is that they need, what they want, what the problems are. Well, look, I mean, I think all of us do know what it is that's affecting the youth of today, but the reality is, how do we get around all of that? 1976, 39 years ago, on this day was when so many people, or so many youngsters, lost their lives fighting for what they believed in, fighting for their lives and a better life for all of them. Well, today, the reason we were broadcasting from Freedom Park is that an interfaith prayer service was taking place, and what we are going to be having now is a bit of a chat to two of the guys that were here. They were representing their different religious sects, and we're going to talk to them about what it meant for them to be a part of it and what it was really like. So, it's good to have you on the program. Introduce yourself to us and tell us, just who you're representing as well.
My name is Bana Morar, and we're representing the Hindu youth in South Africa, right, under the national body, the South African Hindu Mahasabha.
Okay, good. And my next guest here, let's introduce you and who you're representing.
Oh, my name is Zamalek Mbele. I'm representing the RUF, Rastafari United Front. Right. And they are based in South Africa. They are democratic. It's international. As you know, Rastafari is an international movement and way of life.
All right, good. So now that we know who you're representing and your names, let's talk about what it was like this morning and the feeling amongst everybody gathered here, because it wasn't just the two of you. There were a lot of people represented. Yeah. Just give us an idea of what was happening.
It was a very diverse, united effort from all South Africans, and you could feel the spirit of not only Ubuntu, but a spirit of nation building amongst all of us youth in South Africa. And we share that bond, and we're going to build this country and move forward together. in all religious groups, all sectors, and all communities.
Okay. From your side, what was it like for you? I'm going to ask you to come and stand over here because I think our cameraman, it feels like we're playing a tennis match. Mike, I can see you playing with it, so I think it's easier if I keep you on both on the same side. For you, what was it like for you?
Oh, mine was a great moment and pleasurable. But what I've realized is that most of the youth of South Africa are not focused much. They need to emulate the 1976 youth, what they have done in a greater force and a greater strength, in different manner, where they will have a greater impact in this life that we're having in social integration and development, that the projects that the president have already unleashed with the youth development presidential group, the tax team that will develop our social and coexistence, integration of each and everybody, social coexistence and social gap, where there's age gap, people not having the same kind of understanding with each other, and religious tolerance.
I like what you say, and I think it's important for us to realize that it is the youth's responsibility as much as government provides. It is the youth's responsibility to use what is given to them and to take charge of their own lives. I mean, being a part of the youth, do you find that in this day and age we're not doing that, and that the youngsters of today just expect everything to be handed to them and not working hard enough to achieve it?
I don't believe that's true. Youth of today don't only want to be spoon-fed. They want to be part of the greater cause, part of the greater team, part of the greater spirit. And many youth that have this trouble or this challenge are from the grassroots levels in South Africa. And our community leaders and our government officials need to get in touch with the youth. And we see them here today all around us. And many of them are not in tune into the governmental programs. Many of them don't have any communication. Many of them are not aware of how government is structured. So that awareness needs to come from government side to involve the youth more in all the various aspects of the structure.
Why do you think they're not aware of it? Do you think that there is not enough communication? Do you think that there's not enough education for the youth? I'm not talking school education, I'm talking education of what is available for them to better themselves.
I think access is the greatest trouble. According to the research, most of the youth is coming from the rural areas. Most of them come from the township areas. Many of them don't have any access to an email address. Many of them don't have access to a website or internet. And that is, and that's a core business of the country, for any youth to be involved in the mainstream of the economy. And access is a huge challenge. So, and that's where the challenge comes from, or that's where we need government to come forward and assist the youth on the communication aspect of solving all our social issues.
What about from your perspective? What would you like to see happening?
I will agree with him with not having resources and our government not being able to reach out to the ground. But by all means, we can try to use the resources we already have, such as social network, as eventually everybody have access of social network, Facebook, Twitters, so that we can negotiate, communicate in a manner, in a spider circle manner, where we'll be able to implement even our projects. So it's necessary we use whatever it's in us as a tool to beef up on what you want to beef up.
Yeah, indeed. Well, you can see everybody gathering around us here with their different placards. I pledge to fight against sexism. I pledge to be an inspiration for our youth. I like that one. I really do. I pledge to support rural high school learners. Now, that is something you touched on, and I think this is something that's so important. There was another one there, say no to, well, I missed it. I think it's say no to racism. I think that's what it says, say no to alcohol. So you can see that all of them are getting ready to march on to the showground now, where the event is going to be taking place. But you can see the youth gathering here, and in one voice, in one solid voice, shouting out that you want a better life. That's what you want. A better life going forward. And our country's in your hands, you know that, hey? So it's up to you to change it and make it a better place. Thank you for being with us, guys. Thank you so much, and enjoy the walk. We wish you all the best. All right, we're heading up to 8:30 here on Morning Live. What are we looking at there? Are you going to be an inspiration? Okay, good. We're all going to be an inspiration. All right, let's get our news headlines quickly. We'll see you in a short while. Valen?
All All right, thank you very much, Leanne. We look forward to going back to you in a short while. Let's bring you a headline news now. The African Union Commission chairperson, Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma, says there was nothing untoward about Sudanese President Omar al-Bashir attending the AU summit. She says the summit was run under AU rules and that South Africa had no say in the matter. Al-Bashir returned to Sudan ahead of a North Gauteng High Court ruling that compelled the government to arrest him. Hundreds of pupils have converged on the Hector Peterson Memorial at Orlando West in Soweto for a symbolic walk ahead of Youth Day celebrations today. They retrace the steps of the class of 1976 with some of the former pupils who were part of the protest 4 decades ago. And an investigation is underway after another train crash in Johannesburg. At least 7 people were injured, 3 seriously, when the last 2 coaches of a train derailed at the Doornfontein station yesterday afternoon. It follows a collision between 2 trains at Denver and Johannesburg in April, in which 1 person was killed and over 200 were injured. All right, those are just some of the news stories that we are tracking here on SABC News. Let's check in with Tsietsi and what the weather holds on this June 16th.
All right, welcome once again. Yes, well, if you're planning on celebrating outdoors anywhere along the Western Cape province, you should take an umbrella with you or a raincoat and dress warm, as cold weather is expected there, coupled with heavy rainfall that is issued out as a warning by the South African Weather Service. So please do be careful if you're going to be anywhere along the Western Cape, as this could lead to flash flooding. And there's also high seas that are expected there because of gale force winds at 75 kilometers an hour. So really, really strong winds are expected there. Towards the east, though, it is going to be quite a clear day for most parts of southern Africa, stretching up north in towards the central regions of of Africa, and some sunny skies with possibilities of veld fires are expected towards the interior of KwaZulu-Natal or the northern interior of KwaZulu-Natal. For tomorrow, though, partly cloudy skies from Namibia stretching into the Northern Cape province, the Western Cape, and up north and to some parts of KwaZulu-Natal. You might also want to look out for possibility of snowfalls towards Lesotho, and cold weather is expected due to that. See, now clouds have completely built up towards KwaZulu-Natal. Yeah, that's in Durban. If you're celebrating June 16 along those parts, you expect cloud cover right throughout the day, and it is going to continue right up until tomorrow. And also we're expecting cold weather just along those parts. Johannesburg is at 22 degrees. Pretoria also at around 22. 24 Welkom and Ordendals Rest. Bloemfontein 17. Durban is at 27. It's still nice and warm along those parts, but very cold weather for Sutherland, only 7 degrees. So you should expect them. Cape Town at 13, 16 for George. Rainy weather right across the Eastern Cape as well as over the Western Cape province. But clear weather is expected for Namibia. Mariental at 24 degrees. Nice and hot weather towards Grootfontein at 26. Tsumeb is at 27. Oshakati 28 and 26 towards Rundu. Okay, and then into Botswana, do expect Hukunzi at 25 degrees. Khanzi is at 25 as well. Francistown 26 with temperatures for places such as Karibai in Zimbabwe at a maximum of 27 degrees. Mutare is at 23, Masvingo 26, Bindura 22, and Harare is at 23 degrees. Kwamba is at 24. If you're going to be in Pemba as well as Nampula, expect possibilities of rainy weather, but only along that northern coastal part there might be rain. Otherwise, sunny skies are expected right across the central part of Mozambique as well as all the way into Malawi. The southern regions are nice and hot, 30. So you should expect for Shashai as well as over Maputo. 27 for Inyambane and Beira. Vilanculos, nice and warm as well. Into the lower 20s. Seeing cooler conditions for Fiona Rantua, but nice and hot for Toliara as well as over Morobe. Sunny skies are expected. Temperatures also pretty high along those parts. Basically, most parts of the western sector of Madagascar, you should expect nice and hot weather there. There are a couple of high-pressure cells moving in from Madagascar, and that's also influencing the weather, keeping it nice and clear. Before I go, yes, my time is up, but before I go, Moroni is at 30 degrees, Anjuan 31, and basically rainy weather for Pralin and St. Denis, with temperatures for Victoria at a maximum of 33. That is it for your weather. Sharp, sharp. I'll see you again on, I don't know, actually, I'll see you again sometime soon. Stay tuned.
Welcome to AM News here on SABC News Channel 404.
The people who also should be concerned are the people who voted for people of that ilk.
South Africa is indeed a unique country, and South Africa has a democracy that is very exceptional.
If people want to change the rules, do it properly, do it within the context of the Rules Committee within Parliament, and when you shout, it doesn't mean people are listening to you.
But there is a point of authority that must always prevail.
The ANC is very determined. We will not allow South Africa's Parliament to be dragged down into the mud, and we will defend the Constitution and Parliament.
I think our country is really being torn to pieces. And I think that the struggle for liberation didn't take place for people to play the fool like this in our country.
That's AM News, daily at 10 a.m. on SABC News.
Welcome back once again. Thank you so much for joining us. Coming to you live from Orlando West in the southwestern township, better known as Soweto. We continue with our special broadcast this June 16 Youth Day, live from the Hector Peterson Memorial. A moment or two ago, an official wreath-laying ceremony took place here. We saw the likes of Premier David Makura, accompanied by the Joburg Mayor Park Stawu, as well as those who were present on that fateful day, come right here to my right and lay wreaths in honor of the blood that was lost on that day, of the faithful or the valiant, the brave youngsters who took to the streets to demonstrate against their grievances. Inferior education is what they were fighting against. Now, let me take you on a quick trip down memory lane. In 1974, an official state plan to introduce Afrikaans as a key language for key subjects among black people was introduced. It began then in 1974. It was to take effect in 1976. Teachers objected, youngsters objective, and we also saw then the youth take to the streets, and it led to the events of June 16, what is known as the Soweto Uprising. So the central theme there was education. So how better is it to be joined by the Education MEC in the province of Gauteng, Mr. Panyaza Lusufi. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Ayanda. Thank you so much.
The fight all those years ago was for the quality of education. They deemed Afrikaans as a language of the oppressor. It would put them on a deficit, a disadvantage, because those key subjects, maths and science, would have to be taught in Afrikaans. What strides have we made to make sure that in the townships particularly, there is quality education for those who live here?
Well, the power of choice is the best symbol that we've introduced to South Africans. I mean, everyone can choose where they want to go, which simply means that we've managed to open the doors of learning and culture. A lot of children that would have not dreamt to go to some of our former model schools, or vice versa. Some people have not dreamt that they leave the rural areas to come to our township schools, or leave a really bad education to come to here and study here. So we're quite excited that we've moved with the quality of education. If you check the issue of language as well, is that nowadays children have choice. There's no longer that pressure for you to do this particular language. And we've also made sure that we destroyed, we had 16 different departments of education. The Department of Education for Zulus, for Xhosas, for Afrikaners. Now we have one dynamic education department. We have a curriculum that is speaking to our own, is contributing to skills development in the country. We have made opportunities available to our young ones in various universities. It's not up on the basis of your financial status that determine whether they can go to university or not, that we give support to those things. So if you check from subject choices, the careers that no one never thought that an African can either drive an aeroplane or fly an aeroplane, or can be a chartered accountant. We've got those opportunities. So we've really moved, but there's still challenges that we still need to concretize and finalize, especially our township education. We really need to ensure that we improve it.
Especially, you spoke about the township education system there, or some of the infrastructures, what I want to discuss. The schools in the former Model C areas, like you did mention, they've got recreational facilities. You can do netball there, you can do tennis, you can can play squash, you can swim, etc. What about such facilities for children in townships, and not only recreational activities, but also classrooms? We know that sometimes the tables and the chairs are wanting. They leave much to be desired. Speak to us about that, please.
Well, it's for us to concretize the basics and also ensure that there is sharing of resources. We believe that it's no longer the case that in the township you need to play, for example, netball and soccer only. There are learners that want to participate in cricket. There are learners that want to participate in athletics or rugby. So those schools that are close by, we need to find a mechanism of ensuring that when we build an infrastructure, it's an infrastructure that can be shared by all our learners, so that you don't confine a certain grouping of learners to say you can only play this kind of sport, you can't play this kind of sport. So we need to work on those things, and that is why we are twinning some of our schools so that we can share resources and have resources available to all our learners. But check the number of learners that have come out of our schooling environment that are competing in international competitions, especially in sport and rugby and other and swimming. So I'm quite excited that we need to improve the infrastructure, but at the same time keep the basics. The basics means that every learner must have a desk, every learner must have textbook, every learner must ensure that there's a teacher in front of that particular learner. So that's the basics that we have, including sanitations, because sanitation is dignity. So if we don't have strong sanitation in our schools, we'll not be in a position to afford an opportunity for our learners to learn in an environment that is conducive for learning. So we want to put the basics in place, but at the same time compete with the best in the world. And to compete with the best in the world, we are investing in ICT. I'm quite excited that from the 21st of July this year, actually next month, 21st of July, all our high schools in Gauteng, in particular our grade 12s, they're going paperless. These children no longer use a chalk. These children no longer use a chalkboard. These children no longer be asked to go outside the classroom to go and clean a duster. They will going paperless, so that we can ensure that all our matriculants in this particular province are positioned to compete with other matriculants in any part of the world. And this is an investment that we've been encouraged by the June 16 generation. We believe we don't have to betray the soul of these young ones. Those that laid their lives for us to be where we are, we need to ensure that we safeguard that and ensure that the doors of learning and culture indeed are open for all of us.
We'll have to leave it there. I'm afraid we have run out of time. So much to talk about. I would have loved to touch on the legal process around those dual medium schools. There has been some litigation there, and also the pairing of schools is something that's up for discussion. There's a number of issues. I mean, the MEC and I were also talking about that famous quote from Mr. Verwoerd, where he says the Bantu child is only good for drawing, water and the like. What good is maths or science to them? So that inferior quality of education, speaking to whether or not our youngsters today are taking up those subjects of maths and science and whether or not they're excelling. Is that the residue of the apartheid regime, or is that something that we can work on and defeat today? So, some of the topical issues. So I'm going to let the MEC go, at least for now. We'll catch up with him when schools reopened. He did mention that June holidays are about to take effect soon, so he's going to take a little bit of a rest. I will get him and interview him when the schools reopen on those issues and others. But for now, it's back to studio. In fact, a quick ad break. We'll be back with more in just a moment.
Dr. King, this thing.
The historical film, directed by Ava DuVernay, is about Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and his campaign for black voting rights in 1965.
The pictures Uche paints are sold for $1,470 to $2,000. He says these pictures are not necessarily for financial gain, but to create debate about the power situation in Nigeria.
Based for most of the decade in the United States, Mfumo has not performed in his homeland of Zimbabwe since then. So his March performance with his band, the Blacks Unlimited, will no doubt be welcomed by the large community of Zimbabweans who call South Africa home.
Join Musam Khalifi on Afro Showbiz every Saturday at 19:30 CAT.
Welcome back. You're watching Morning Live as we remember June 16th across South Africa. It's known as a Youth Day. We've been at what was the epicenter of the protests in 1976, where Ayanda is in Soweto. She, of course, was at the Hector Peterson Memorial a little bit earlier on. And Leanne's been out in Pretoria. Now, just remembering today and remembering how significant those young people were that actually stood up. Those young people between the ages of 10 years old right up until 18, 19 years old. The official figure of those that were killed on that day was 23, but South African History Online puts that number right up to about 200. So it's not just those iconic images of Hector Peterson that we remember, but each and every single one of those brave young souls that stood up for what was right at the time, saying no to Afrikaans as a medium of instruction against Bantu education at the time. Okay, that's what we're remembering today. Let's cross over now to Leanne, who has stepped outside of a Freedom Park and is chatting to a couple of the capital's youths.
Thanks very much, Valen. Well, I can tell you what, there's a very massively great, exciting mood here at Freedom Park, just outside. The Harley Davidsons have arrived, and I can tell you one thing, I'm glad they switched the engines off, because I couldn't hear myself thinking for 1 second there. But they, I imagine, are going to be leading the walk that's going to be taking place now to the showgrounds there in Tshwane. So it's a celebratory mood here, I think, and a pledging mood, because everybody's walking around holding these placards, pledging to do something. I pledge to mentor other young people. I pledge to fight against sexism. I pledge to fight against substance abuse. I pledge to be an inspiration to the youth. I mean, these are the things that the youth that have gathered here have promised that they are going to do to everybody around them, and to be, I suppose, a role leader, for a role model for the fellow youth in the country to look up to. Now, I'm joined actually by four individuals come here as well, because there are about 4 of them here that actually have been, they beneficiaries of the National Youth Development Agency, well, not 4 of them, 3. You are from the Freedom Park. Okay, you're from Freedom Park. I'm just seeing people coming in now. So as you can see, Vela, there's lots happening here, and we've brought it to a standstill so we can chat. So you're all beneficiaries, and I mean, it's been, I imagine, a wonderful time for you to be able to enhance yourself. Erin, just talk to us. How did you become a beneficiary? What's it been like for you?
Well, initially we started with selling a phone. That's how we gained capital. And then we were like, you know what, there's no other space for us. And then we went to the NYDA. And the NYDA decided that they would help us out. And that was our starting point, to the point where now Research Unit, my company, and my partner's company, has started, we are a progressive luxury leather goods company in South Africa, and we're actually opening a store in Berlin this year. And we are very, very happy and very excited and very glad that the NYDA could help us out with this.
That is unbelievable. I mean, well done to you. I mean, would you have ever thought, and would it have been possible without the help of the NYDA?
No, I think they really set us on the right foot. I mean, they helped us with a lot of mentorship, because that is a big thing for us. We need to be guided, in a sense, to go the right direction. But with my wife and my business partner's intellect, I mean, we kind of navigated and we did quite well, I think.
So Berlin, you're opening up in Berlin. Yeah. How did the opportunity come about?
Well, through the NYDA, we were able to open a little stand at the market in Cape Town, and from there we had 2 customers who were German, who constantly came in and loved our product. To this point, they said, you know what, let's open the store in Berlin, let's collaborate and let's do that. And that's how it,
Yeah, it just shows you there is never a wasted opportunity, is there?
Nope.
In a small little stand in Cape Town, and this is now you taking your business venture globally. That's fantastic. Now your story. Your story. Tell me a little bit about yourself.
I'm a farmer. Yeah. And I received help from the NYDA in my piggery project. They helped me with expansion. One of the biggest problems that we have in farming is the move from small scale to commercial farming. And with the help of the NYDA, we managed to get our project running to commercial level.
Okay. Was it difficult, though? Because I have, and in reality, I mean, we make it sound easy, but a lot of people complain and they have difficulty getting funds and getting access to the NYDA. What was it like for you? I'm going to ask you for both of your experiences.
Okay, I won't say that it was simple.
Yeah.
But, you know, there are procedures and steps in place. They actually guide you through the entire process, and they help you structure a business model that will work for you. You know, so once you follow the right procedures, the process kind of unfolds naturally.
Yeah, okay. So it's frustrating in the beginning, but once it works, it works. It does. For you?
We were assigned a mentor via the NYDA, and if we didn't have that mentor, we don't know where we would have gone, because mentors kind of help you to, they have experiences that you have not been in business, and it's always important as a business person to understand that you grow only because you learn from others.
Yeah.
And that you need to understand, people need to understand that you can't do it on your own. You need to have a mentor, and that's what the NYDA did for us.
Yeah.
They assigned us a mentor, and that helped us a lot.
Yeah, indeed. Is it easy to get a mentor, though?
Yeah, I mean, for us, it was quite easy. I think we're very persistent, and we quite... we try our best, and it wasn't that, I mean, it wasn't hard. I mean, there were harder things than getting a...
You've been through harder things.
Yeah, cash flow, it's hard, but so this is what it was, fairly painless and easy.
Well, listen, good luck with your international venture. Good luck to you as well. And I just want to get a closing word now from Freedom Park, who have been hosts to this. What's it like for you? I mean, seeing all these youngsters gathering around here, having the interfaith prayer service taking place in the morning. I mean, is this what Freedom Park's really all about?
This is what we really are about. We're very excited, particularly today hosting such a large number of young people. You saw them leading in the prayers. You see them now leading and making pledge and commitment, because Freedom Park is all about celebrating our heritage, celebrating our freedom, and remembering where we come from. And we want young people to come here, learn about where we come from, but exactly make a pledge like they're doing now to say, based on this past, we want to move forward as a nation, positively building a nation, contributing to social cohesion and continent building. So we're really excited and very proud.
Fantastic. Well, we wish you all the best and enjoy the rest of the celebration for today. I know that we've got these beautiful engines. Who wants to switch theirs on and just rev it? Come on, do it. You guys are being too quiet now. Now let the celebrations begin. It is Youth Day. The youth love to party. There we go. All right, so I'm going to wrap it up from here. I hope you can hear me. I can't hear myself. I'm going to say...
Jan certainly is having a lot of fun there in Pretoria, and as you can hear from the sounds of those Harley Davidsons, that's why they colloquially call them choppers. They do make a wonderful sound, but it just resonates with the kind of conversations that we've been having, important, touching deep down into many people's consciousness today. It's a day that some people will celebrate, some people will choose to reflect on this day, but each and every single one of us will remember that class of 1976 and the Soweto uprisings. The southwestern townships is where Ayandali Payne has been this entire morning, and she will have the final word on this very special broadcast of Morning Live. Until we meet again in tomorrow's show, goodbye.
Thank you so much, Valen. Yep, let me tell you, about 2 or 3, if not more, programs have been happening simultaneously. Not only have we been broadcasting live, but right here behind me, the wreath-laying ceremony where Premier David Makura and Park Stau Joburg Mayor also laid wreaths here alongside the class of 76, those who survived that fateful day. And then a stone's throw away from where I am at the moment, members of the Pan-African Congress, the PAC, they've converged here singing struggle songs and also paying homage to the those who lost their lives on that day. I'm going to see if we can get some visuals of them, the songs that they're singing, the chanting, the dancing, and we'll leave you with that. But live from the Hector Peterson Museum and the memorial thereof, it's goodbye, God bless, have a fantastic day. Let's reflect, let's think of where we were and where we are as a country, and of course, where we want to go.
Fallen heroes, struggle icons. Watch SABC News for a live broadcast of the June 16 commemoration event, where President Jacob Zuma will deliver a keynote address. Tuesday, 16 June, live from the Pretoria Showgrounds, celebrating the legacy of the 1976 youth, only on the SABC News channel.